use explicit violence in your writings?
It's what I do, is one answer. I write horror fiction. There is a kind of curiosity that we have as human beings about our life processes. One of our last life processes is death. It's a legitimate subject for curiosity. We shouldn't be ashamed that the macabre or the morbid exercises some fascination upon us. I tell it like it is. If it's there in my mind's eye, I put it on the page. And that seems to me to be a legitimate way to write.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on Written in Red. That is the horror reader and writers podcast. Today, we have an awesome episode coming up for you. A tremendous interview with none other than Patrick Harrison III, who is a joint owner of Death's Head Press. He's also written Splatter Westerns, some various collections, and is probably most recently been mentioned for his upcoming book release of Visceral II, Filleted Flesh, with none other than the show's own, Written in Red's own, Daniel J. Volpe. Which by the time this comes out, it's still gonna be available for pre-order on ebook, but we're looking at May 10th, right, Dan, for the release?
Yeah, that's correct. It should be May 10th. So right now, Visceral 2 is available, like Aaron said, for pre-order on Amazon for the ebook. And I know the majority of people that listen to this are splatterpunk and extreme horror fans. This book is going to have it all. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be funny. It's going to be maybe test your gag reflex a little bit, which Aaron has none, just for the viewers. But you guys are going to want to read this. It's going to be a good time.
Absolutely. And I've already read it, so I can co-sign that. You can read my foreword, or as I call it, a forewarning of this book.
Or a foreskin.
Foreskin, yeah. Wish I had some still. But, it's going to be excellent, guys. But before we get into a brief intro, we're going to be getting to PC3 very shortly. But let's just remind the audience, for maybe anyone who's new, my name's Aaron Beauregard. I am a 3-time Splatterpunk Award-nominated author for such works as The Slob, Beyond Reform, Modern Hysteria, Nightmare Nirvana. I'm launching a store very soon to any of my readers that might be interested. It's going to be abhorror.com, just like my initials, abhorror.com. You'll be able to find signed books, merchandise, shirts, exclusive updates. It's going to be really cool. You're not going to want to miss it. And I'm also joined by Dan Volpe.
Everyone, Daniel J. Volpe. I am a 2-time Splatterpunk Award-nominated author of Talia and Left to You. So you guys check them out. They're on Amazon. I have other books, Billy Silver, A Gift of Death. I just finished up the sequel of that, Black Hearts and Red Teeth. That'll probably be coming out around December. I just started the Talia sequel, so that should be coming out hopefully next year. Follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and like Aaron said, I have a website coming out shortly that will give you guys access to merch, signed books, all sorts of cool swag. That's going to be danieljvolpehorror.com, and that should probably be out around May 1st, probably when this comes out. So check that out, and hope you guys like the stuff that I'm putting out. Roland?
Hey everybody, Roland Bercy Jr., author of Payback is a Witch, Pre-Thanksgiving's Justice Order, Unbortion, which is the winner of the 2020 American Fiction Awards. I have a couple of stories that I'm working on now, so I should have 2 out this year if everything goes well. And since Carver Pike is not here, I'm going to go ahead and talk about Carver.
Roland, where is he? If you could just let the readers, the watchers and listeners know. Where is Carver Pike?
Last I heard, he was out harvesting bull semen. For me.
It's true. Yeah, it's a thankless job, but if you want to have hair and look like fucking Jimmy Neutron, you have to get grade A, FDA approved bull semen for your hair. So thank you, Carver, for your service in collecting bull semen.
It's a dangerous job.
He's a fucking saint, you know, out there dealing with those animals that could have diseases, but Carver doesn't give a fuck, dude.
They're just coming everywhere.
Yeah. He's just fucking bout it, dude. You know what I mean? Like, well, all right. Enough about the semen. I'm sure we'll talk about it later.
Yes, but talk about Carver's book. What is his latest release? Faces of Beth.
Faces of Beth.
Wow. That cover is amazing. And he has his parasitic head lice scalp. He's also author of the Diablo Snuff series. And did he get nominated for an award? I believe he did.
He did.
I think he did. For the Maddening, right?
The Maddening.
The Maddening, yes.
That's the one where he rips a gentleman named Roland. He rips his genitals apart in a car wash.
He rips my genitals apart in a car wash.
Not with his teeth.
That's
like
speculation.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, a little teeth, Carver, but not fucking fish hooks.
Anybody.
No.
And remember, also Brian Keene doing the introduction on Faces of Beth, his new one. So.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, that's badass. That's
absolutely. That's was a big deal for Carver and for everybody because Brian Keene's a legend in the horror industry, and he gave Carver an amazing introduction. So check out Faces of Beth by Carver Bike.
Yes.
Absolutely. Now, we have PC3 coming up on our end shortly. But guys, do we have any housekeeping stuff that we need to talk about? I think I'm going to, well, you know what? Let me just kick it off. I'm going to say we got a Scares That Care episode that'll be coming up. We just have to find time for the four of us to sit down and record it.
Yes.
We got a Matt Shaw episode coming up where me and Matt are going to talk about the writing process and some of the behind the scenes for Survivor's Guilt, our upcoming book, which I believe releases May 4th, available for pre-order now on Amazon.
Yes.
And then I have, and I think Dan may be joining me in Taunton, Mass in October for Monster Expo, which is a...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to do that. I have some other signings that are in that area, but I got the green light from the boss, aka my wife, who was amazing, and she lets me do all this stupid shit and go places and talk to my stupid ass friends. So I want to just thank her because she's all. No, I'm not talking about you. I would never say that about you. I'm talking about Carver.
We're not friends. Yeah.
No, we're not friends. Carver and I are friends, and he's a stupid ass. But no, Taunton, Mass in October. Aaron and I will probably be together again, docked at a table, and it's gonna be a good time. So. Follow us on social media. Fanny packs, flamingo shirts, Hawaiian shirts. It's going to be a good time. Follow us on social media.
We're hoping to have our second release of the No Boundaries book, #2, available by that time. That's the goal, to have it there and have something for readers that's fresh. But and then, I think that's probably it. Like, as far as my stuff goes, what do you do either of you guys have anything that you'd like to shine a light on before we get to the interview?
Nothing I can think of.
For me, it's just Visceral II, which we're going to talk about a lot in this interview, so I'm not going to beat it up anymore. But for anybody that hasn't seen it yet, it's a 8-story collection from myself and Patrick C. Harrison III, and it's available for pre-order right now. It's going to be a really nasty splatterpunk collection, so check that out.
Awesome.
All right, well, Roland, we appreciate you, brother, and make sure what is your website name again? Is it just rolandburseyjr.com?
Yeah, just www.rolandburseyjr.com.
Okay. And then be sure to check. Do you do updates there on your work too? Do you put updates on the website, or is it mostly social media? Because I know you have two things that are coming, right? You have two things.
Yeah, I have a short story that I'm working on for a collection. I'm not going to say yet because I don't know how it's going to work out. And then I have a second, hopefully maybe novella land. It's probably going to be long. It's definitely longer than anything I've written so far, which I'm excited about because I had the story for this in my head for a little bit, and it's disgusting and creepy, and it's just a subject that gets under your skin.
Disgusting and creepy is Aaron's tags in his high school yearbook, so that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, fair. But But just on one note, one written in red podcast note, Chris, who's an admin for the group, put up a wonderful post about Roland, and I just was like blown away by the amount of love that Roland was getting shown, and rightfully so. I added my comment and 2 cents, but I wanted to let everybody else get this shine on, and it just goes to show how valued you are as a person and a friend, and just some of the stories. I think Chris told the story of that he only got 2 birthday gifts for his birthday, and one of them was that Roland went out of his way to send books, and he's in Australia, right?
Yes, he is.
So Roland went ahead, and I know Roland's won't toot his own horn, so I have to.
That floored me yesterday. I mean, first of all, I had no idea anybody was going to do anything like that, and when I saw it and read it, I was over the moon. And then when everybody started commenting and just the love coming across, it was the best thing ever. And I'm going to be on cloud 9 for the rest of the month. And I appreciate everybody and their comments and just the support and encouragement from everybody and from you guys. I love you guys, and it's just amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Roland, you're not only a great author, but you're a fucking amazing friend, and it's a great person, and everybody loves you. Like, I'm fucking jealous because you are just so nice, and, like, we're not. And
why are you gonna fucking include me with your filth? Like,
I didn't mean you. I meant Carver.
Okay.
Myself and Carver. Now, Roland, you really are. You're awesome. It was great to meet you at Scares That Care finally, and just seeing people gravitate towards you, and just enjoy your work, which is excellent, and you as a person, was really uplifting, and just what you went through to even come there. I mean, you fucking flew in from Texas to meet us and to hang out with us, and it was just cool as shit. And we appreciate you and we love you, and I can't wait to see what you do next. And fucking sky's the limit for you, brother.
Yeah, I want you to have more releases, because I think people would really go for it, and I think they're hungry for it. Whereas a lot of the other people on the show release frequently, and I know you have your own life, but I just can't wait to see when your next solo release comes out, because I think it's going to be a big thing. So.
Oh yeah.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
We're going to get strippers. We're going to get fucking sparklers. Like,
yeah.
It's going to be amazing. When you do it, your next solo release is going to be a big deal, and I think that you're going to see how much people really appreciate you and love your writing, that you're going to see that next solo release, like you talked about, that novella length thing, is probably going to fucking explode. And, next Scares That Care, you bring 100 fucking copies, because they're going to sell.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Now that we're done sucking each other's dicks.
Human centipede, kid.
It's time for PC3, guys. We got our first publisher on the podcast, legit publisher, one of the top publishers in splatterpunk and extreme horror, responsible for the Splatter Western series, taking home multiple splatterpunk awards already via his imprint of Death's Head Press, and we couldn't be more excited to have Patrick Harrison III. All right, thank you everyone for joining us here on Written in Red. That is the horror reader and writers podcast. For our awesome interview segment, we are fortunate enough to be graced with the presence of Patrick Harrison III, also known as PC3. He is a writer, an editor, and also a publisher. And just to make sure I say it right, you're partners with Death's Head Press. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm with Jared Barbie, and recently brought on Jeremy Wagner, running Death's Head Press and Stygian Sky Media.
Absolutely. So yeah, you got your a lot of pokers in the fire, so to speak. I've worked with you quite a few times now, which has been great. So actually, this is the first time we've had an opportunity to talk, which will be really cool. And as you know, we've alluded to that. Patrick has a book coming out with Dan, which I wrote the foreword to. It's a collection of extreme horror, and it's called Visceral II, Filleted Flesh. And that is going to be out. What is the exact date on that?
It's going to be May 10th. We're releasing that on the world. So we'll be canceled on May 11th.
Oh, yeah. the hate mail emails will be probably coming in.
We laugh, but we hope. we also cross our fingers at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's it's appropriately titled Visceral, right? It is very true to the title. So, what you're in for is it's going to be disturbing, and it's not going to be for the faint of heart. So, but I think you did a good job of making that known from the cover, so people will know right what they're getting into.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the first one I did was with Christine Morgan, and we really kind of set the pace of what the Visceral. Yeah, there it is, right there with what it was going to be, and she's one of my favorite all-time writers. So. Going into this one, all I'd ever read from Dan was Talia, and I loved it. And I saw he was kind of taking off, so I was like, all right, reach out to this guy and see if we can do it. So.
That's nice. How long did it take for y'all to finish the whole project from start to finish?
Oh my gosh, I don't think it took Daniel very long at all. Maybe for you, maybe a month and a half, something like that. But
Nice.
For me, it took a little longer, probably just because I do have all those irons in the fire. I finished the last one, so I guess it probably took me about 4 months.
Okay.
But I'm working on other projects at the same time, so
Yeah, I kind of went through mine quickly because originally we had talked about trying to get it out at the end of 21, and I think we started talking about it probably late summer, early fall. So I don't like having anything looming over my head, and obviously this was a big opportunity, so I wanted to make sure that I got my stuff done and cleaned up as best as I could. So I kind of flew through them, and as you guys all know, once the ideas start flowing, it's like you can't turn it off. So I was like, I'm just gonna knock them all out right away. And I
wish we had got it out in 21, or I guess the reason for wanting to get it out in 21 because I wanted to be up for a Splatterpunk whenever the next awards came around, and I knew I feel like this collection will be at least get a few votes, and certainly some of our short stories will get some votes, and that'd be cool. But next go around, maybe.
Yeah, we don't want to win them all in 1 year. Save some for the next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and additionally, though, I mean, although it's not your direct writing, I mean, you have your name associated with some nominations this year, and also some wins in years past. I know probably most notably the Magpie Coffin with the Splatterpunk win last year. So at least your fingerprints are kind of on the promotional process and distribution of some stuff.
It's really cool to see stuff that I've worked on out there getting all this praise. Even if I wasn't a part of the writing process, I left to you, I edited, and I could see that one winning for best novel, even though I'm not sure that it's entirely an extreme horror splatterpunk novel. It definitely has some scenes that are that way, but that's one of the best novels I've read in recent memory. So I'm really rooting for that one to win. But like Chris Miller's Shattered Skies is nominated, and there's some other stuff nominated too that I've been involved with. And it's real cool to see the praise, whether it's from Death Set Press or stuff I've edited, or I made the cover for Shattered Skies too. So it's just cool to see all stuff I just kind of barely touched my hand on, and it's getting praise.
Well, Cerberus Rising was nominated last year, right, for Splatterpunk?
Yeah, Cerberus Rising was nominated. Visceral was nominated, the first one. And my short story, Full Moon Shindig from Visceral, was nominated. And year before that, we won a Splatterpunk award for And Hell Followed, which myself and Jared Barbie edited. So that was real cool. But it's cool because you're not going to see these extreme horror and Splatterpunk stories getting nominated on the big stage, not usually anyway, like the Stoker Awards or anything like that. You could argue that if Clive Barker's nominated, some of his stuff is extreme, but you're probably not going to see any of these small press extreme horror stories getting national coverage or getting voted on for the Stokers or anything like that. So it's real cool that our community has this award show that recognizes the great work we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a kind of a grind for us, because we are such a niche, and it's not mainstream and it's not for everyone particularly,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I agree. I think it's really cool that we get that platform, and that Brian Keene and Wrath come together to make that. And it's
Well,
I could. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
well, I was going to say, people use the torture porn term like all people are reading are these little cut together scenes of nothing but torture and gore and stuff like that. And there is stuff like that out there. But I've read so many of these splatterpunk and extreme horror authors that write great prose, that have complex plots and great arcs and character development. We have all that in our community too. It just goes unrecognized for the most part on the large stage. So that's why you need the Splatterpunk Awards, is so that the people that are great writers and prose stylists and storytellers can get that recognition.
Yeah, I mean, it even extends to like you could kind of apply that same lens even to like cinema in a way too. Like a lot of times, even no matter how good a horror film is, like it takes a lot for a horror film to really get recognized at a high level. And what we're doing is like, kind of horror that we know is not for everybody. So it sort of gets stained in some ways, which is, like you said, unfortunate, because there's a lot of really talented people out there. But I could see that, I think with the tools that are at our disposal now too, like I could see that evolving and maybe changing too.
Yeah, it could. I mean, it's kind of like music. I mean, back in the day, you weren't going to see any heavy metal music or rap music or stuff like that get recognized at the Grammys, but now it's completely different. You'll see some of that stuff get nominated for different things. So,
well, the one thing that we talk about in a lot of our shows is like Books of Horror, the Books of Horror page on Facebook. There's a lot of people on there that read a lot of like mainstream horror and are now kind of making that transition into the splatterpunk and extreme horror, just because they're being exposed to it more and they're seeing it a lot. And a lot of the stuff that's coming out now, especially from like Aaron, myself, Lucas Mangum, it's a lot of novellas. So these people are taking a chance on it, and they're like, you know what, it's a couple bucks and it's 150 pages, I'll give it a shot. And they're finding that they're enjoying this darker, more violent, more sexual and graphic stuff than they thought they would. And I feel like maybe it's not going to be completely like a mainstream thing, but I think more people are starting to see what it's worth. And, the community's growing, which is great.
Well, I think there's something to be said for that shock appeal. People aren't used to it in reading generally. They may see a shocking scene in the movies. They may see the occasional shocking scene in a Stephen King book, like the completely meaningless fuck scene in It, where the kid orgy. But generally you don't see the shock scene in literature. But yeah, the Books of Horror group is so great. I don't do other platforms, but it'd be great if there's pages like that on Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that you can follow, because that Books of Horror group and Facebook is bringing so many more readers to our genre. I see that all the time. That's how I think Dead Inside and Wound and probably The Slob, I don't know, probably all those have gone viral to an extent on Books of Horror. That's probably where it started. So I love those kinds of pages.
I think a lot of people also with the mainstream kind of horror, they're kind of getting bored of it. You see the same thing, you hear the same thing. So when they, find an indie author, splatterpunk author, when they read it, they're like, oh shit, this is what horror is. This is, I want to be shocked. I want to be caught off guard and gasp when I read something. So I think people are slowly getting into it more and more.
But probably up into my early 20s, probably 99% of what I read was Dean Koontz, Stephen King, and just a little bit of Clive Barker. When I first read Ed Lee, I read Header. Jesus Christ!
Get the whole saw out.
People can do this.
And I was the same way. Like, I grew up reading a lot of horror, and I read like John Saul, Stephen King, Dean Koontz, Goosebumps when I was very young. And then I think the first thing I read that was really extreme was The Pig by Ed Lee, and that opening scene we were talking about with Ryan about the girl fucking taking a shot of pig cum, like the opening line, and you're like, And for a second, I'm like, I can't believe people can write like this. Like, and this is, not a mainstream thing, but somebody went out of their way to publish this. And I'm like, oh, okay, so this is doable.
Well, I thought I'd reached the peak of horror with Header, and then the second extreme horror book I read was Monica J. O'Rourke's Suffer the Flesh, and that was just even worse. And I was like,
oh, yeah.
My God.
It's like 150 pages of rape, torture, and fucking abuse. And you're like, holy shit. Dustin LaValle sent me a copy of that. I don't know why. He must fucking hate my psyche, but he sent that to me, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, that one scars you, for sure.
Yeah, and it's like, it's funny because for me, it was in high school. I think it was like 10th or 11th grade. I read American Psycho. And even though that's a more mainstream book, like, I was just like, my eyes were open to like, oh shit, people can write this way. And you didn't really know it before, But as far as sort of evolving readers, I think you guys are completely right. Like, I've had numerous readers approach me and tell, like, there was a woman, I think it was Jennifer Bauer was her name, at Scares That Care. I mean, she came up to us and she was like, I can't read King anymore. Like, I can't read that stuff anymore because now I know this exists, and like, it's sort of been missing in their lives just because people aren't getting exposed to it, I don't think,
Yeah, I've been numbed to the milder brand of horror probably, and looking forward to, all right, how far can this author go? And like I said earlier, there's something to that.
Yeah.
Stephen King has even said it before, when he can't think of a way to scare somebody or something like that, he's like, well, I can at least shock them, and that's when he'll go for that gross out scene, and that's, I love that. I love when I'm sitting there reading a book and I go, holy, you know what I mean? That's part of what I love about this extreme horror genre. It's just, how far can somebody go?
Yeah, as long as there's like good storyline and good characters that surround it, it's like
that has to be there, or it's, I can enjoy a scene that's over the top, gross and gory, but if the entire, like if it's a novel or a novella, if it's just one of those scenes after another, okay,
yeah,
it's got to have a good plot to it as well.
Yeah, that's why I think the gross out contest is so much fun, and I really had fun writing a story for that because it was short. It let me get all that gross shit out, and you're like, all right, I can do this. It's 600 words, and I'm going to try this to make everybody feel really uncomfortable. And here you go. But I could never write a book that is, 35,000 words of guys eating maxi pads out of a fucking porta potty. So, maybe I could. I don't know. It could be a fucking bestseller.
I'm hungry now.
Hey,
Strawberry shortcake.
Hey, I heard you say you did one of the covers for your other books. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've done a few covers. I've done a couple for Chris Miller. I've done one for my upcoming book, Grandpappy, and for the one Daniel here and I are in, the Visceral II. Now, I'm not an artist. I piddled in art back in the day, so these are like stock images I take and then just kind of fool around with the font and make it look cool. But,
that's what I was going to ask. Is the Visceral II? You did that one, you said.
Yeah, I designed the cover, but, like I said, it's just this free stock image I got off the internet,
Oh, I didn't know that. It looks good. I love it.
Yeah, but sometimes there's part of it, the way you align the font, the white background, there's different things that go into it that, I know you're trying to be modest and say, oh yeah, it was just a stock image, but the way that you organized it makes it look like a professional, unique experience that the reader's going to get. And let's just stop for a second and talk about Grandpappy real quick, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to put the image up, obviously, for those watching on YouTube, and make sure you get ready. When's it coming out?
That's going to be July, I think. I haven't set a date exactly, but I think it's going to be in July.
Yeah, that one caught my eye, I think, and everybody else's. Gross. But I feel bad for the poor bastard that stock image was derived from. They probably cut his fucking leg off at this point. But just for the listeners, it's just it's the grossest grandpa foot that you can imagine. It is just insane. You absolutely, if this doesn't, if this piques your curiosity, make sure you go to Patrick's Facebook page and follow him or friend him or his Instagram and check it out, though. You really should. You really should.
Yeah, as gross as that foot is, it compares not a hair to the content of the book. So just prepare yourselves. It's
outstanding.
It's going to be the most fucked up thing I've written by far. I'm probably probably 2 chapters away from finishing now. It's at about 33,000 words.
Do you have a general premise that you might be able to share, sort of? I know you haven't written a blurb, so it might be hard, but...
Yeah, basically it's about this guy. He's going over to basically house sit his grandfather for a couple of weeks while his mom and father go on vacation. And this guy, he's got his own issues. He's maybe a drug addict. It's really bizarre. You're not really sure what's going on a lot of the time because he's forgetting a lot of things and he's taking a lot of drugs. So everything, you're not sure if he's seeing what he's seeing or not. And his grandfather, Grandpappy, is a very fucked up individual in his own right. He's on hospice care, and we keep having flashbacks to some of these awful things he did to our main character, Charles, back in the day. So, and it all kind of ties together in the end. And it's just, there are a lot of really messed up scenes.
Sounds like a heartwarming tale right there.
Yeah. My wife's been reading it along the way, and just periodically she'll just burst out into laughter, or she'll be like, oh my God, that is so fucked up. Yeah. So I think I'm on the right track with it.
So you say you're about 2 weeks, a little ways from finishing it. Like when you're doing your writing, do you have like a process? Like, do you outline your story, or is it just you a fly by the seat of your pants kind of guy and just go for it?
It kind of depends on the story. This one, I was a pantser because I had one scene in mind. I didn't know where the rest of the story was going. So I started writing to get to that scene. And I wasn't sure what was going to happen after that and what all was going to happen before that either. I just knew I wanted to tell this one fucked up scene. And slowly as I started writing, I could see where it was going to go. And that one fucked up scene that I thought was going to be the climax is now kind of the midway point. It's only half as bad as it gets, So
girls, people are just girls in general, so
yeah.
But,
yeah.
I do outline also sometimes. I'm about 30,000 words into another novel that I'm going to pick up after this one that I've had to outline because I knew the ending right off. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to just make a straight beeline towards that ending. It needs to be a long, complex story to get there properly. And so I've had to kind of start doing an outline for that so I can make sure it gets there in kind of a weaving sort of way that isn't obvious to the reader where it's going,
So you can work on 2 things at one time. Like, I know we talked about that in the past.
Man, I work on several things at once, and oftentimes I write several things at once, and I probably shouldn't do it that way. The last few weeks I've been solely working on Grandpappy just because I want to get it done, and I'm almost there now. But yeah, people pop up and ask me for a short story, and I'll start writing. I'll put away what I'm doing and write this short story, or whatever. But this other one I'm working on, it's called the Snake Creek Inquisition. It's one I've kind of been working on for a couple of years, and so once I'm done with Grandpappy, I'm going to set everything else aside and work solely on it because the story's been there. I know it's going to be a great book, and I just need to get it done.
Well, that sounds incredible. And definitely check out the cover, guys. It's a nice teaser.
That got a lot of warm reactions on the Books of Horror.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go real back to the Visceral cover real quick. I think what now we've started doing conventions and stuff like that. I think that'll be a very eye-catching cover at conventions. I think when people walk by and they see that cover, especially mixed in with, like, my books for the most part are fairly darker in the cover scheme. Left to You is probably the lightest one, but once they see that, I think it's going to be an attention grabber. So like these guys said, like I think it looks pretty good. And I know you kicked a few ideas to me before, and I think that was the one when you sent it to me. You're just like, yeah, I think this is it. And I'm like, yeah, definitely. And we just talked about the font a little bit, and that was it. But I think it's really good.
Yeah, those other 2 I sent you, they were pretty sad looking compared to that one. But when I found that image of that filleted flesh, basically, with that white background, I was like, holy shit, you never see any horror books with a white background. That'll just, it will stand out on a table just because of the white background.
I dig the white background too. I like it a lot. I think it's very eye-catching, and I think I definitely want to dive in a little bit to like your journey in a moment. You know what I mean? Because I'm really interested. I think it'd be helpful for the listeners to learn how you got to the position you're in, where you're doing so many things. You're such an asset to many individuals. You have a far reach, you know, and it's great that we're all networking, but we'll talk about that in a second. But I think we should just really hit on Visceral for a second. Let's talk a little bit about how that came about, you know, maybe what was, I know you kind of hit on that, but maybe like what was the process, and did you guys enjoy working together? You know, tell each other what you need to now, you know?
Yeah, it's a therapy session. Well, I got notes. I have notes.
Well, you want me to start, Daniel, or do you want to say how horrible the process was?
You go first, and if it's really bad, then I'll speak the truth.
Okay. No, like I said earlier, I wrote the first Visceral with Christine Morgan, and I was super nervous about asking her about it. Because, like I said, she's one of my writing idols. Even though, you know, she might not be a big five author, she should be. She's one of those writers that is just so talented in the genre, and she's been an award winner and is just praised by so many people. But she worked in healthcare, and I worked in healthcare for many years too. I was a nurse, and I'd read some of her stories, and I was like, we both write like body horror really well because we know anatomy, we know how it works and stuff like that. So gore scenes, we do really good. And so I reached out to her, and she was immediately on board that, yeah, let's do this collection together. And just like with how me and Daniel did it, it wasn't like we collaborated on stories. Although with her, we did not do what we ended up doing on that one story, Daniel. We didn't start a story for each other, but we each wrote 4 short stories. It came out great. It was nominated for 2 Splatterpunk Awards, 1 for collection, 1 for my short story, Full Moon Shindig, and that was great. And you know, later on, I got to thinking, I was like, man, I would love to do a yearly Visceral book where I just have a different author come on with me, and we write 4 stories apiece and see where it goes. And sorry, Daniel, you weren't my first choice. I actually had Chandler.
I know,
Chandler
you told
Morrison.
me. It's okay.
I had Chandler Morrison was going to do it with me, but then he came back to me and said, "Hey, man, I'm sorry, I haven't even been able to start. Can we maybe do this another year?" And I'm like, yeah, no problem. And at that time, that's when I was noticing Daniel a lot, and I think I just ordered Talia from you not long before I asked you if you wanted to be on board. And that's when I approached you with it. I was like, hey, you look like your sales were good. I started reading Talia, and it was good. So I was like, all right, let's just ask him. And he was all about it. And, you know, like I said, we're each doing 4 separate stories, so we don't really collaborate. I told him body horror, splatterpunk, that type of thing. And then I got the idea, let's each write the first sentence of one of our stories and see where it goes. And I actually pulled it up on my computer here. Let me read what Daniel sent me, because I was like, what the fuck am I going to do with this? Let's see if I can find it real quick.
Well, in my defense, you sent me mine first, so I was like, this son of a bitch. I'm like, how the fuck am I going to write a story about this? So I'm like, all right, I got one for him.
Yeah. So he writes, Janice's glass eye was calling to me. I didn't know if I would lick the socket or fuck it, but that little sliver of painted glass was coming out one way or another. And so
oh, man.
That was the last story I tackled because I had no idea what I was going to do with that. But that ended up being the final short story in the collection. I think it's really good and really gruesome. It's called Sumptuous Sunday at Susie Suzuki Sushi Saloon. And it is a cannibalistic sushi restaurant, basically, and I think it turns out great. But
Nice.
It
I don't know.
does.
What do you think of the process, Daniel? I thought it was great.
I'll co-sign that. It did turn out great. I like
Daniel.
that one.
Yeah.
What was the story, like the line that Patrick sent to you?
Roland, fucking relax.
Oh,
I'm
man.
getting to it. You're going to hear it, but I'm going to say that for the climax.
Fine.
Yeah, it was really a cool experience. You know, I've never really done anything like this. When Pat reached out and told me that I was his like 8th pick in line, I was really I was like a little bit humbled and I was a little sad, but I was like, I'm going to do it anyway. No, it was cool to be approached, and he told me, hey, we're going to do this. I'm going to give you the first line of your story, which I will tell you, Roland. Fucking relax. What's funny is the line he gave me was a first person point of view, and I've never written anything first person before, like ever. So it was a little bit difficult, and Pat and I went back and forth with the edits, and I'm like, you're going to have to save me on this because the edits are going to be a fucking nightmare because I'm not sure if I did this right.
I've seen worse.
That story is actually the first one of the collection. It's called Green Bleeds Red, and it was probably one of my favorite stories that I did. When he said body horror, I kind of had to think to myself, like, I didn't want to make 4 stories of torture porn because, like Pat said earlier, that shit gets boring after a while, and you're like, all right, how many times am I going to cut somebody's dick off, or somebody's going to get sodomized? Like, there's only so much that you can read. So there is one torture-y kind of story, but I wanted to make every story kind of unique. I wanted to add a little bit of humor, a little bit of sadness, a lot of violence. And all right, Roland, I'll read it for you. But it really was a cool opportunity, and I think that we have a really good collection that's coming out. And the beta readers who have read it already seem pretty freaking excited about it, and they were definitely fucking grossed out by some of them. All right, so the opening line that Pat gave me was, I realize most people don't watch porn while munching on popcorn and drinking beer, but that's exactly what I was doing when Libby, who died 3 fucking years ago, knocked on the door. So that's what I got from him. So I'm like, all right, first of all, it's first person, which I've never done. And second of all, it almost sounds like it should be some kind of like a zombie story, but I'm like, I don't want to write a zombie story. I want to write something unique. And like I said, that ended up being one of my favorite ones. There's a lot of sex in that one, but it was fun to do. So,
well,
it was a great process.
I'll say that that story was really funny. It did make me laugh out loud a few times, which is always a sign of success in my book.
Yeah, for sure.
If you can get somebody to chuckle, that's a good thing. And I actually laughed at a few of the stories in the book, and I think you guys both had some really, like, there was a lot of range in the stories, which is what I think people will really enjoy about it, is that some of it's funny, some of it is like depressing, and then you're gonna get those scenes of violence that only our genre can really do properly, and do it justice. And I think it's just a good variety, and it's cool that Dan, like we always talk about on this show, as far as learning experiences and growing, you being sort of pushed into doing this first person view, that's going to be a good thing for you, because I could tell you, we know it's kind of hit or miss with first person views, as far as readers go. Like, some people are obsessed with third person, some are obsessed with first, and then some don't care either way. But to have that range and now have done something like that, you might get another idea, that can correlate with that. Well, so that's cool.
What was great about it was that, I wanted to, obviously that was my prompt, so I was going to do it anyway. I didn't bitch or moan. I wanted to do it. And I knew that Pat would help me along the way. When I messaged him, I said, I've never done this before. So here's my story unedited, kind of helped me through it. And now that he did help me through it, I have a much better grasp on how to write first person stories, so that if I do something like this in the future, I'll have a better idea of what I'm doing. And, I think the storytelling is there, but really the formatting, the stylistic proportions of it, he really helped me with the edits, and, that was a great learning experience. So
I think that one came out great. And it's very erotic. I mean, people are going to start reading that one, and they're going to be like, they're going to be getting a hard on right there.
Yeah, they're going to touch their dicks. Definitely.
Yeah. But I think it's great. What I like about first person, I probably write pretty even, whether it's third person or first person, half and half. Grandpappy is first person. But what I like about writing first person is inner dialogue is so much simpler, because it's all told from that protagonist, antagonist, whoever's telling the story, the narrator. It's all told from their point of view. So everything can kind of be told, and if your character's absurd, everything can be told in an absurd way. I mean, it can all be bizarrely looked at. Whereas in a third person point of view, you can be that way, but you also kind of have to tell them reality in a sense. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And there's an art to the first person too, because you have to be creative with how you craft your story, because if your character doesn't know something, the reader doesn't know something. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's kind of like it can be a little bit more complex, but like you said, there's also other benefits that make it a little more easier. It's kind of like picking a fucking character in Street Fighter. They got different stats, so it's just a different way to approach it.
Always pick Blanca though.
Blanca all day, dude.
Blanca. If you don't pick Blanca, you're a fucking moron.
I have not thought about that game in probably 20 years.
Pat's goatee kind of looks like Blanca's hair, so it's fitting. We do have a question.
It's slowly turning white. It's going to look like Aaron's here before long. So.
My shit. I mean, obviously I'm fresh shaved, but my shit's all gray and fucking disheveled. I look like Aaron's bush when I grow it in. Yeah. So. It's fucking gross.
If you ever miss looking like my bush, you could just nudge right up against it if you want. Whatever you want to do.
It sounded like that Scares That Care hotel room got a lot of work with the bush.
Oh, the guinea pig cage. Yeah. We're just pissing on the floors, like not even in the bathroom, like in the fucking room. Like,
you know what the funny part was? Is I thought you pissed all over the floor of the toilet, and then he's like, "That was you." I'm like, "What the fuck?" I literally don't remember it. I don't know.
He's talking to me. He's talking with the door partially open.
Of alcohol at those cons, isn't there?
Oh, Saturday night, I went to bed earlier than Aaron. I went to bed at 4, and. I had a I'm like I couldn't even I was like using the wall to lean against to get back to my room.
Well, I remember last time I went to Scares That Care, I came back the next day after a long night. I'd left at maybe midnight or 1 o'clock and came back, and it was noon. And Wiley Young comes in, he's like, "Man, I didn't go to bed till 7 a.m. I was like, "What the fuck?"
He's awesome.
He is. He's a cool guy.
That's great. He's funny.
Yeah, that was a good, very, very good time.
Totally. But so yeah, I think the book is going to be awesome. I'm interested to see what the paperback looks like too, with that cover kind of in the flesh.
Yeah, beautiful.
So that's cool though. That was kind of like your side project to kind of work with various people, and maybe you'll continue it now that you have 2.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
We'll come back, I think, talk about Visceral a little more before we wrap up. But I think for the enlightenment of aspiring authors and curiosity of our readers, maybe, could you tell us a little bit about your trajectory in writing? Like, how did you kind of start out? And then how does one become a publisher? I think there's a ton of people that would really like to hear that.
Yeah, I started writing like probably most of us at a young age. I think I wrote my first horror short story in 6th grade, I think. Some little thing about me and my friends and a werewolf and stuff like that. And I'd always wanted to be a writer. That was always kind of my dream, along with being a baseball player, which I did not have the skills to be, but I still thought I could do it. But that was always something I wanted to do. And one of the things I regret is after a few rejection letters in my early 20s, I was just like, I guess I just don't have it. You know what I mean? And then, I went back to college a few years later, and I won a writing contest. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm okay. And so I started writing some more horror. It was a literary contest is the story I won a contest for. It's about a guy that went fishing, battled a catfish. But I started writing horror again, and I started submitting to collections, and I got a couple accepted. And so I started taking it serious again. And I wrote my first novel, Inferno Bound and the Hellhounds, and sent it off to a couple of places, and it got rejected. And then I found out, I didn't even know, I found out that you could publish this shit on your own nowadays. And so I looked into KDP, and well, I guess at that time it was also CreateSpace. Isn't that what it was called? CreateSpace?
Yep. I think it was Kindle CreateSpace. Yeah.
Yeah. And So I put together my own novel. Oh my gosh, that first cover I made was so horrendous. I think you can still see it on Goodreads. It's like the worst. Yeah, see, that was Don Noble made that one, and I like that one. My first cover I made myself, and it was so bad, man, so fucking bad. And it's horrifying to me to think that probably 4 people in this world have that book. But
Yeah.
that original one with that original cover,
They'll never recover.
No.
Yeah. But anyway, so I did that, and then I published my collection. I was getting accepted into more collections, and I was starting to get a little social media presence. I didn't do social media for years and years. I signed up for Facebook, I think in 2017, maybe. Yeah, I guess it was 2017, because I met Jared Barbie on there and found out he lived, in Houston. It was about 4 hours away from where I live, but we're still in the same state. So we had a connection on the horror level, and both Texans, and we got to talking. Our wives met, and they liked each other. So at some point in 2018, he was like, "Hey, man, I'm going to put together an anthology. Would you like to write a story for it?" And he said it's going to be about the Bible. It's going to be about the end of the world, about the apocalypse. I was like, "Yeah, let's do it. I'll write a story." And so he brought me on, and about an hour later, maybe 15 minutes later, he said, "Hey, I need help putting this together. Can you help me get authors for this anthology?" Yeah, I'd be happy to. And so then I'm helping him get stories together for this anthology. And then, a little while after that, same day, he said, "If we want this anthology to be legit, we probably better be a publishing company." I was like, I thought a little bit on that one, and then I was like, yeah, why not? Let's be a publishing company. That's basically how Death's Head Press was born. Because in the span of just a few hours, we had gone from I'm writing a short story for an anthology to we are a publishing company. And when we met at KillerCon 2018, we went and made it official, got a bank account for the press, and got all the tax shit taken care of, and all of a sudden we're a publisher without a book trying to promote ourselves at KillerCon. And that's kind of how it all started. And Help Follow turned out to be quite a hit. It's still selling pretty well.
Yeah, that was nominated for an award too, right? That one?
Yeah, that won for anthology that year.
That's right. That's the one. Okay. So were you up against yourself?
Yeah, we had And Help Follow was nominated, and Dig Two Graves, which turned out to be another one of our releases that year for anthology. We were up against each other, but I don't remember who else was nominated. But just looking at the reception to all those books, we kind of knew going in, man, And Help Follow has done so well compared to all these other books. Surely it's going to win, and sure enough, it did. And I couldn't be more overjoyed. But that was a great way to start off a press. If it had tanked, because we invested in some great authors, Raph James White, Jeff Strand, Sisters of Slaughter, Wiley Young. We had some, great authors in there. So we invested a little money to do it. And if it had tanked and done nothing, Death Set Press might not be a thing. But it really kind of took off, and we were very pleased. And yeah, that's just kind of how it started. And here we are now.
And because anthologies are kind of tricky too, There's quite a few of them, so if you won an award, that's obviously a big standout and a great accomplishment. That's a difficult category to get a win in.
Yeah, for sure.
But what I was going to ask too, just I think out of curiosity, it'd be cool to know, was how'd you guys come up with the name Death's Head Press?
My question, man.
Oh, I'm sorry, Roland.
Yeah.
But Roland, you ask it. You're better looking at it.
Yeah,
Roland, just ask it again. It's fine.
I wish I knew. It was all Jared. And I've asked him before that same question. He's like, I don't know. It just sounded like a good name. And it's kind of weird that we landed on that name because it's kind of a tongue twister. It doesn't come out of your mouth just real easy, Death's Head Press. But he said it, and I said, I like it. And, we just kind of went with it. He probably came up with that same night that we had decided to become a publishing company. I don't remember for sure, but that title was all his. and I wish I knew where it came from. I guess maybe it had something to do with Silence of the Lambs, because of the Death's Head moth, but I really don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes that inspiration just hits you. You don't know where it came from. It just clicks in your brain. Like, yup, that's it. That's what it's going to be.
His vision might have landed on something that, gave him that little insight. I don't know.
Yeah, I think as authors we can all relate to that, especially with like titles and stuff too. Like you just get that title and you're like, oh man, yeah, that's it.
Oh, I've had several things where I had nothing but a title and just kind of went from there. But that's how my first novel was, actually.
Yeah, it's funny how it is. I was talking to my wife earlier about that because I had a great title for something. I'm like, I don't really have a story to go with this, but I really like the title. And then I was talking to her about another one of my books, and I'm like, you know what? I think I could do a spin-off of this, and this would be a great title for it. So it's always like those weird strokes of genius, or not even genius, just your fucking synapses firing in weird ways. You're like, all right, that's great. I'm gonna write that down, and maybe I'll find a reason for it.
Yeah, even like you could have a story and then kind of associated with that title, but then you could be like halfway into it or 75% into it and still not quite know how that title clicks. That's kind of how it was for All Smiles Until I Return, for a little bit into that book. Not maybe like in the beginning of it, but eventually I was like, oh, okay. I
love that title too, but that's kind of how it went with my novel, A Savage Breed. Is I probably had 5 or 6 different titles for that throughout working on it. I was never happy with any of them. It started out as The Night Tribe, which turned out being some creatures that were in that book. But as I got along writing it, it turned out the creatures in the book were not as big a part of the book as I intentionally planned. And so I was thinking, all right, that title's not going to work. And I just started throwing around different titles and eventually landed on A Savage Breed for a completely different reason and like the characters in the book were completely different than where I started. So A Savage Breed in the end turned out to be a good one because it was actually referring to the human monsters rather than that's a beautiful cover.
There it is. Justin T. Coons.
Justin T. Coons, a very
fucking awesome.
Beautiful.
Wes Southern and I are going to kidnap him actually, because he's not far from us. So
too late. I have him captured. Right, he's in my closet.
God damn it, Wes! We gotta go fucking to Texas and get him.
You got a longer drive than you thought you had.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we actually have a reader question about that. Let me pull it up real quick, if you don't mind. Jason Nicky, also a guy that came out to see us at Scares the Care.
Great guy.
A fucking amazing supporter. He was so cool. He hung out with us pretty much the entire weekend. I read A Savage Breed. I fucking loved it. It was savage. And his question, which I think the masses want to know, is, will we see more of Liz from Savage Breed?
I would love to see more Liz. And I have a few ideas for her. The funny thing is, whenever I started this book, she was not there. It was just going to be these bandits that escaped, went into the mountains, and, had to deal with this situation with creatures. And I started it, and I was like, all right, something's missing here. I need a little more entertainment. I need a smart mouth or something that's going to make people laugh. And so I created Liz, and she just ran the show. As soon as I started writing her, I was like, okay, I got to lead the way with this girl, because even for me, she immediately became my favorite character in the book. And so I would say, yes, at some point there will be more Liz Sawyer.
She reminds me a lot of Chris Triana's Kim White from Full Brutal, how they have that kind of both. They're definitely cut from the same cloth. I'll say that. And if you guys haven't read Full Brutal, it's probably one of his best books. I know he gets a lot of reads on Gone to See the Riverman, which is excellent. But Full Brutal is fucking disturbing. It is wild, and Kim and Liz, I think, would be fucking kindred spirits for sure. If you put Kim in the Wild West, she'd be fucking Liz, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, where I kind of got the idea for Liz is I just recently read True Grit, and there's the character Maddie in True Grit, who also has a smart mouth. So I just kind of took the idea of her little sharp tongue, and the way she just would talk over everyone. And I turned it up a notch or two or 1,000.
Yeah, it's definitely 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, true grit and a savage breed are fucking miles apart there.
Yeah.
So there is no Rooster Cogburn, and there's no, it was definitely, I read that, and I'm reading, I first started off reading it, and I'm like, all right, this girl's pretty cool. And you start going, you're like, oh, okay. And then you get going more, and with the dad and the horse, and I'm like, all right, she's a little bit of a bitch. And then it starts going, and you're like, this girl's a fucking monster, but she's awesome now. So.
She is. Yeah, she is.
And that is number 6. If anybody is listening to this and didn't see me hold up the book, it is 6 in Death's Head Splatter Western series. So, again, right, Pat, these don't have to be read in any kind of order. These are all standalone novels or novellas. So,
exactly. There may be an Easter egg here and there for the others, but they are all standalones.
Yeah, you had a nice shout out to Wiley Young in this one.
Yeah.
Talking about his character from the Magpie Coffin, which I picked up on that.
Just there's a sequel to Magpie Coffin coming out, and Liz actually makes an appearance in the Magpie Coffin, a very brief appearance. So
Jesus Christ. I actually got when I was at Scares That Care, we saw Chris Rufty and Chris Triana, and they had the Splatter Western posters that had they were really cool, and I got a couple signatures on them. So I think I got Wiley Young, Chris, and Chris Rufty.
Oh, that is awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, it looked really, really nice, and they're high quality. So I don't know who has more left, but I know the Splatterpunk guy or the Splatter Western guys definitely had some.
Yeah, when we started that series, we're like, okay, if we're going to do this, I think we started out with 8 books is what we planned on putting out. We're like, if we're going to put out this many books, with these authors, we need to have some really, really great covers. And they kind of need to be a shout out to the past of the pulpy Westerns type thing. And I'd already worked with Justin. He did the cover for my collection, 5 Tales That Will Land You in Hell. And I was like, there's this guy, Justin T. Coons. I don't know if he'd do it. We might have to offer up a bunch. Yeah, there you go. That's another beautiful cover.
I come prepared.
We'll have to probably offer up some big money for this guy. So we just told him what we could do, and he's like, immediately, he's like, fuck yeah, let's do it. So, now he's going to be one of those guys that down the road you're going to be like, man, we worked with one of the greatest cover artists there is,
Oh, absolutely. He does some quality work, and what's great about his work, especially for the Splatter Westerns, is you can just be perusing and see one of them quickly and know that it's a Splatter Western, just because it's kind of the beige background for the most part, and his artwork is very, very distinguishable. And I saw one for another author, which I'm not going to obviously say it on here, but it was amazing, and it was just he does really great work.
Yeah, he really does. And I think that's one of the things about the indie horror community is that we're really embracing the art aspect, whereas the big 5, you don't really see that. You kind of see these little standard covers. But, we have, like, Don Noble does a lot of great work. Aaron, I don't know who you use, but he's really good, too. His artwork on your covers is really good, too.
Yeah, Anton Rozovsky is his name.
Yeah, you have all these guys in the indie horror community that are making these classic covers, just like they did back in the Zebra and Leisure days and the 80s and 90s paperbacks, that people are going to be collecting those for their covers.
Oh, totally. And I think it's really cool to see it all come in like such a large wave, like within, these last few years have been crazy with just the amount of like cool shit that's been released and like the imagery and stuff. It's like a sensory overload. It's awesome. But where you left off sort of in your, when you're telling us about your own personal trajectory, let's go back to that for a second. So did you and Jared sort of, who came up with the idea for Splatter Westerns, and like how did that evolve, and can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Was that really the first major project after the anthology, would you say, or?
Yeah, we had published a few novels by that point and a few anthologies, but I came up with the Splatter Western, and I wish for the life of me I could remember exactly how it happened. I actually wrote a short story about how it happened that is complete fiction. It's on my website. But I wrote a little entertaining explanation of how I came up with it. But really the way it happened is I had an idea for a story I wanted to do, and I knew I was all wrapped up in Death's Head Press now, and my time was a little shorter than it used to be. And so I was thinking, okay, how can I work on this project and incorporate it into Death's Head Press? And so I started getting this idea for getting multiple authors and having a series. And somewhere along the way, I melded the words Splatter and Western. I was like, holy shit, that sounds wonderful. And I pitched the idea to Jared, and he was like, with everything, if you know Jared, when he hears an idea, his instant reaction is to love it. Within Death's Head Press, I'm always the one that's like, no, okay, hold on. Let's step back and think about this for a second. Jared's always the one that's gung-ho. Let's go. So whenever I brought him the idea, he's like, yeah, let's go. And so I think, like I said, it was originally 8 authors, and we each thought up a few and approached them all, and all but one of the people we approached was for it. And so we started signing all these authors, and then Jared started signing after that the bigger authors like Brian Smith and Chandler Morrison and Christopher Ruffty. And so we have this huge thing lined up now. And to that point, our sales, with the exception of Van Hell Followed, were abysmal. So we were investing a lot of money in Justin. We were investing a lot of time and hope in these other authors. And whenever Magpie Coffin was about to come out, I was scared to death that it was just going to fall on its face and do nothing. But it didn't. Whether I'm sure it was a combination of Justin's art and getting all these great authors together and just kind of having this common theme and that term Splatter Western there on the bottom of all of them. I think it all came together for a perfect storm, and all of them have sold very well. And so I was very pleased because I was scared to death that it was going to be a huge failure. If Magpie Coffin came out and sold 3 copies, we were going to be fucked. You know what I mean? But they've all done very well.
Considering that you have so many out and you have your hands in so many different things, are you doing this full time? Because I know you said you used to be a nurse. I don't know. Are you writing full time, or do you still have another gig?
Yeah, I work at a university down the road, Texas A&M University Commerce, where I do some writing and editing also, kind of for some professors, just helping them with their work and such, and helping them with schedules and just kind of busy work a lot of the time. But much of my time, a majority of my time in my off hours is spent either writing, editing, or going through DHP emails, writing up contracts. I very much have multiple jobs and multiple roles. And I was for a while doing writing and editing solely full time. But it's just not at this point where I can live comfortably doing that. I might can pay the bills doing that, but I can't live comfortably doing that.
Gotcha.
And so, I hope to get there at some point, but we'll see. Yeah. Kind of depends on you, readers.
Yeah. Buy Death's Head's books.
Well,
yeah.
Especially Visceral II on May 10th.
Well, I think with the the constant success you'll get there, I don't have any doubt. It seems like Death's Head is one of the premier publishers, I would say. As far as we're associated, in the splatterpunk and extreme horror community.
And I would like to tell people out there that at this point, all the money they're investing in our books, it's all going straight back into the company. Jared and I, Jeremy, none of us are taking paychecks. Every penny that's spent on Death's Head Press books that doesn't go to Amazon or whoever's printing, it goes back into Death's Head Press for more artists, more authors, and the best talent we can find. So we're building.
Just in the fact with when you guys approached us with the chapbook ideas, and to see some of the other authors that came on board, like the fact that you guys you're hunting the best talent that's out there, and the guys that have announced, are incredible. I'm not saying it just because Aaron and I are 2 of them, but like Ronald Kelly and Jeff Strand have announced it. Like those guys are are legends in horror, and
Yeah.
you know, and two of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Like
Oh,
they are, and that's the one thing I think that
Brian Keene, right?
Brian Keene, yeah,
Yeah.
like the thing with Death's Head is that you guys don't, you know, you attract quality authors and you attract people that are personable and that are good ambassadors for the Death's Head flag, I guess you'll say, and that will go out there and promote their stuff and, you know, not make a bad name for your publishing company.
Right. When you get to a certain point, you know, we talked about a year ago, it's like, hey, we might be able to start giving ourselves a paycheck. But then we're thinking, you know, or we might be able to start publishing Brian Keene, you know. So it's kind of if you want to get those bigger authors, you're going to have to invest a little money. You know, if you want to keep artists like Justin T. Coons, then you're going to have to invest a little money because, you know, if you want quality work, you're going to have to put your money where your mouth is and do something with it. You can't just, okay, we're making decent money. Let's have $100 check every week or something, you know. You got to. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, no, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I agree 100% because to me, with writing, it all goes back to passion. You know what I mean? Like this is a passion-driven business, and it's like, I'd rather not get paid to and just put out some fucking dope shit. Honestly,
yeah.
If I could, like, you know, that's kind of what we do. You know, it's like,
yeah,
you have to be fueled off that passion. I think, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And that's like something I was saying about the covers, that people be collecting those. That, you know, we're putting out product that for 50, 100, 200 years, people will be looking at those books on their bookshelves because they're pretty books, they're great authors, and you know what? I was a part of that, and that's just fucking awesome. You know, it's not always about the money. Obviously, I would love to be able to pay all my bills and buy whatever car I want, go on whatever vacation I want because of the books I publish and the books I write. But there's also a lot to be said for down the road, people are going to be looking at my books for years and years to come. I have a huge book collection. Y'all can't see it here, but on the other side of the iPad here, I have a huge book collection. Some of them are written, you know, late 1900s and early 20th century. And it's like, man, I'm still looking at those. People are still collecting those. Those people are long dead, and here they are sitting on somebody's bookshelf. And I love that idea of that happening with stuff I've written and stuff I've published.
Yeah, we're offered, as authors, we've picked an interesting career and passion because we're offered the unique opportunity to potentially live forever, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a cool thing. And it's not, I don't look at it in a selfish way. I look at it like, you know, it's, I think we talk about this on the show a little bit, is that our genre in particular is misunderstood, and that you'd be surprised how many people we actually help, like in their everyday life, because they are able to read some of this stuff that is so dark. It just puts their own shit in perspective, and it fucking it helps them. It is therapeutic to some people.
Oh, for sure.
And you know, there's a slice of you know, whatever society that just doesn't understand that, which is fine. Maybe they weren't meant to read it anyway, but you know, I'm with you. I hope that all of us, you know, everybody, even Carver, fuck it, even Carver.
Carver.
Hold on.
And Aaron, with that as well, you know, yes, it does help the readers, but I think for some authors, it's really like a therapeutic thing to write, you know, especially the stuff we write. Like if you have any issues or demons, you know, writing and getting them out is like a, you know, it's like a relief for some people. And a lot of the stuff I write, nothing is really personal. It's more of just like I write fucked up things. But for some people, they've said that, you know, some of the stuff they write is personal, and it helps them, you know, rather than spending money on therapy or doing anything else, like to write, it's a way to get it out and to just feel better about it. And not only that, but like you said, it could help other people that are in those situations and to just feel better about themselves or to know that they're not alone. So, you know, horror, I think, is one of those genres that, you know, it shows you the fucking boogeyman behind the door and says, hey, listen, this is what it is, and it's okay. I've seen him too, and we're going to get through it. So, and we've gotten those emails or those private messages from people that say like, hey, I was, you know, a sexual assault victim, and your character, really helped me, and it really brought to light some of the things I experienced, and the climax of it was great, and it was a cathartic kind of thing. So obviously we all want to be millionaires. We all want to be fucking Stephen King, living in creepy houses and shit, and chasing away people making fake bombs and putting them in our fucking in our living rooms. But it's cool just to help people, and to make tens of dollars is great too.
Well, one of the best things about being an author is getting those private messages or emails from people just praising you for your work. I mean, that may be selfish, but I think it makes you feel good. It gives you that little dopamine hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, and we've seen it with this show, especially, that people have written to us to writtenandreadpodcast@gmail.com, and they've told us, like, hey, your show has really inspired me to pick up the pen again and to start writing after X amount of years, and I see you four dipshits can do it, so you know what? I can do it as well. And
if Carver can do it, then anybody can do
Carver,
it. Right?
bull semen in his hair pike. If he can do it, then I can do it. And Carver, not only that.
Not showing up today. That's all I got to say.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but I think today is some kind of phase of the moon where the bull semen is just right, and he can just. It's a good harvesting night. So
okay.
Carver,
him and Chris Miller are out there eating semen.
Oh, they're eating it now. Okay.
Oh, I think it's good for the skin as well. Chris always seems to be glowing when I see him, so that could be it. Fucking wretched.
Yeah, no, but seriously, I think it is awesome. Like you said, Pat, just interacting with the reader, and you feel that you've made a change for someone for the positive, and a lot of times you didn't even realize that your work was going to potentially do that. And our readers are so gracious because the community we have is incredible. Number one, and it's like, and they're always just like very grateful to talk, like they can't believe they're talking to you. Little do they know, like what the reality of what we reap from this is. It's relatively modest in a lot of cases, but that doesn't matter to them, And for me, it was the same way with like horror films and horror books too, as well. Like it didn't matter. I didn't think about how much it sold or how popular it was. They were still my idols.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And it's like being in this community now. I've been and being a publisher too. I've reached out to folks like Brian Smith and Ronald Kelly and Brian King, folks I never would have imagined talking to and being able to have a consistent dialogue with. And it's like they're just regular people like me. And it's the same way. Yeah, like you said, those readers probably think, "Oh my gosh, this author is talking to me." It's like, no, we're just regular people, man. I'm super stoked that you love my work. Let's talk about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely humbling. And recently, on Books of Horror of that great website, a great page, I think it was a couple weeks ago, Jay Wilburn had shared a post about my book Talia, and John Skip, of all people, commented and was like, "Oh, that looks really great." And I reached out to him and started a conversation with fucking John Skip. Like, that's how accessible people are. And he is he's such a nice guy. Like, I'm a nobody, and John Skip was talking to me like I was a peer, and just thankful that I liked his work and that I wanted to talk to him. And like, he's like one of the OGs. He is the Spider Punk. Like,
oh yeah, he's one of the
fucking John Skip. Yeah, Skip and Spectre. I mean, they're the Spider Punks.
Yeah. I got some Skip and Spectre right up there on the bookshelf. Yeah.
Yeah, it's and especially Ronald Kelly. Like, Ronald is one of the nicest guys.
He's the nicest guys ever. Yeah, he will talk to anybody and talk at length. It's like, man, I need to be more like him, because I'm on social media. I'm like, golly, I better post something, at least one thing this week. You see Ronald Kelly, he's like talking to people and posting stuff, and I don't know how old he is, but golly, there's no way I want to. I don't know. I'm just not as social as he is, I guess.
And it's tough. Oh, go ahead.
And when you buy a book from Ronald Kelly too, you get that fucking special RK artwork in there. Like,
I know it. He's a good
this
artist.
guy hand draws his own art in the books for every book that he sends out, and he's just a nice guy, and he writes some really brutal shit, but he's super nice. He won a Splatter Punk last year.
Yeah. Dan, talk about his release that talks about the zebra collapse that's coming up. Let's plug that.
Actually, that's with for Stygian Sky. He had, I think it's Southern Fried and Horror Fried.
Southern Fried and Horrified. Yep.
And I got to read an arc of that, and I think Jeff Strand read one as well. That book was amazing, and I was very thankful to Ronald for letting me read it. But he talks about the whole zebra collapse and, you know, just his life as a writer, and it really shows you, like, that guy grinds. Like, you don't understand the stuff he's been through. And for anybody that doesn't know that book's coming out, obviously he's announced it. It's going to be one for the ages. It's part writing manual, part memoir, part history lesson. It's just, and obviously Pat, I'm sure you've read it, and it's excellent. And you know, when we talk about indie publishing, we see indie publishers go under, and sometimes it happens quickly. When we were at Scares That Care, the whole Silver Shamrock thing came out, and it was like literally while we're on the floor, and some of our friends came over to us and like, hey, this just happened, and my book now does not have a home, and what do I do? And the zebra collapse was a big thing for those guys back, you know, I don't know, 80s or 90s. So Ronald's awesome. So anybody, if you're not reading Ronald Kelly, fucking go out and do that right now.
You need to. And on the topic of that collapse, I don't want to get into the reasons for Silver Shamrock, whatever happened, but we got so many emails and messages about, I guess they were putting together a horror Western anthology. And we have decided, because of all these emails we're getting, we're going to put out one, because we've had a lot of authors approach us, and you know, we've talked to Joe Lansdale, we've talked to Ed Lee, we've talked to Ronald Kelly, we've talked to Al Goingback. I just got a contract back from Al Goingback. We are going to have a killer Western collection coming up. Patrick McDonough, I don't know if y'all know him. He's going to be the editor of it. He's putting it all together, but it's going to be a badass fucking horror Western collection. And
hell yeah, that's awesome.
That's a written and read exclusive, everybody. So
you heard it here first, motherfucker.
Fucking exclusive. Fuck you, Carver, for not being here.
That is breaking news.
But seriously, and that's awesome. So duly noted. But just going back to Ron Kelly for one quick second, I would say, especially the fucking people who are listening to this show for informational reasons, make sure you pick that book up, because that's why you're listening to this show. And yeah, sure, me, Dan, Roland, and Carver, we have some information. We don't have fucking an iota of the information that Ron Kelly's going to put out in the book, you know?
He has all the information from when the mass market paperbacks all the way down to indie horror, self-publishing, and where we're at now. He's been through it all, and he's got loads of information.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's going to be a great book, guys. Like I said, some people don't like reading those, you know, on writing kind of books, and I do. But that book it's not just a writing manual.
It's a lot more than that.
Oh my God, it starts from his childhood, like from when he was a kid watching monster movies, and you know, I don't want to give too much away, obviously, but it is. I flew through that, and I was thoroughly entertained, and I messaged him immediately, and I'm like, you know, thank you so much for letting me read this early, because I really, not only did I enjoy it, but I learned, you know, talking about publishers and just certain things to avoid, and just, you know, the guy's got a wealth of knowledge, so definitely check that out.
Another really good one is, have you read The Writing Life by Jeff Strand?
No, I haven't read that. I've heard it was excellent, though. I think the last one I read was David Morrell's. Yeah,
it's hilarious too. It's a lot of fun. It's not like a how-to writing thing. It's kind of his experience in the writing business, a lot like Ronald Kelly's, except Jeff Strand's has almost solely been, you know, in the indie community, and so it's a lot different. So that's a very enjoyable book too.
It's crazy. Jeff is so successful. You know what I mean? Like, that's, you know, like, that's another person that you guys can look to, watch how he operates online, watch what he releases, look at his blurbs, his covers, you know what I mean?
Subscribe to his newsletter also. He's got a great newsletter that comes out. He always throws a little short story in there. There's always some humor. You know, at Scares, Jeff did a fucking hilarious and amazing reading.
I watched that on YouTube. Somebody posted it to YouTube, and it was fucking hilarious. So he always kills it at the readings.
Roland,
the only person better than Jeff Strand John Wayne Communale is better than Jeff Strand at readings, but he's probably the only one.
John Wayne was there, and he did.
Awesome.
He told a story, which was just a story about getting caught jerking off. Which who hasn't been there? He played a song. John Wayne was awesome. We hung out with him for a good portion. His table was right behind mine, so we kind of mingled back and forth and had a few beers and whatnot. And he's just a fucking really great guy.
Yeah,
totally.
He's a riot. I'll be with him at Texas Frightmare Weekend here in a couple of weeks, so that's gonna be fun.
Oh, that should be great.
And Roland, Jeff Strand wrote your favorite book, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So when I went to panel, that was my favorite book, The Haunted Forest, which I've read a million times. It was so good. But anything by him, Sick House is amazing. Like, you can't go wrong with Jeff Strand.
No, you really can't. He's awesome.
Absolutely. Okay, so
Do a couple of reader questions.
Yeah, but let's sort of career-wise. Is there anything? I mean, we'll talk more about this at the end of the show too. But is there anything? This is just the one last thing I want to talk about real quick was for anyone who might be interested in publishing with Death's Head Press. What is your guys' general approach? Is it sort of like, because I know a lot of aspiring authors listen to this show, so I know they'd be interested here. Is it invite only, or how does it typically work?
At this point, we're closed to submissions because when we were open, we had so many we couldn't even begin to try and find all the great manuscripts within. The last time we opened for submissions, within just a couple of weeks, we had over 200. It was like, oh my God. And at that point, it was just me and Jared, and it was like, dude, it's impossible. There's no way we can go through all these. So right now we're closed, and we kind of are approach only. However, if you want to email me, I read all emails. And if your pitch is just outstanding and you seem like a really great person and it sounds like a really great book, I might say, hey, yeah, tell me more. What do you got? Do you have the manuscript? So certainly you're welcome to email. Obviously, watch our website, deathsheadpress.com. Watch us on social media, because when we do open for submissions, we will post that. Now, if you live in Texas right now, we are open for an anthology called Roadkill, and it's only for Texas authors, so you can submit a short story for that. But other than that, right now, we're closed, but you're certainly welcome to email me, patrick@deathsheadpress.com, and you never know. We'll see what happens.
And before we move into the reader questions, also, I think it'd be interesting to know, what do you look for in, like, an author to sign? Like, do they have to have that social media presence? Do you look at Amazon ratings, how they react with their readers? Like, what are some of the major things when you're considering someone?
Obviously, I would be a stupid business person if I didn't take into account their sales. So, if Joe Hill were to approach me with a book, I wouldn't be saying, hey, buddy, we're packed full. Thank you very much. So obviously there's that aspect. If you have a lot of sales, we'll give you a little more consideration. Beyond that, I don't necessarily look at social media presence, because we pay for advertising and marketing. We're about to start working with a new marketing agency who's hopefully going to take us to the next level. But what I look for is originality more than anything. I'm not opposed to ghost stories, but there's been millions of ghost stories written. So if you're going to write a ghost story, it needs to be original as fuck. Same thing with zombies and vampires and that sort of thing. If you can catch me off guard and surprise me and tell me a plot that is different, that people haven't heard of, then that's probably where to start.
Awesome. I just had to ask because I know a lot of people would have probably been like, fuck you guys if you didn't ask that,
Yeah, and that's kind of the answer around indie horror. A lot of people, I know Grindhouse is one of the other ones that is, they're looking for that edgy kind of newer stuff. And Death's Head, I definitely see going in that direction, where they just don't want the same old retreads. They just want something fresh and new and that people haven't seen before.
Yeah, But it's hard to find that stuff. And Daniel, I know you work with D&T, and that I do a lot of edits for them, and they have found a lot of good stuff, and they're consistently open for submissions. And I've been pleased and shocked at some of the manuscripts I've gotten from them to edit, because they have found some really talented authors.
Yeah, Dawn over there, she's an absolute machine at D&T, and she actually messaged me recently about when she had the pitch session. She's like, I'm just going to open a pitch session for, I think it was a couple days. She's like, what if nobody pitches to me? What if nobody pitches? I'm like, Dawn, your fucking email is going to explode.
I was thinking, when I saw her post that, I was thinking, get fucking ready.
Yeah, she was so worried.
Have opened.
She was like, nobody's going to send anything to us. We're not going to send anything. We're not going to get anybody. And she messaged me. She's like, I got 30 pitches overnight. And I'm like, I told you. I'm like, wait till the submissions. And that's not even submissions. That was just pitches just to see. And she's going to see going forward that, not to toot, their horn too much, because there's so many great publishers out there. But, I've published through D&T and some other stories through some other presses, but Dawn has been nothing but receptive to any ideas, editing. Obviously I get the final edits back, and they're really a great press to work with. I have, she gives range on the cover ideas and everything. And they're really dedicated to not only putting out a good product, but taking care of their authors. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, D&T really, their rates are fair. Everything is been pretty good with them, and I think you'll see that going forward. I mean, she has Ronald Kelly. There's been some other great authors that they've signed. So, get ready for that submission window to open up in May.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things about working with these indie presses. You're working with people on a lot more personal level. Whereas if it would be great to sign with one of the big 4, big 5, whatever it is now. But you're not going to get any input on what your cover looks like. Your edits, you may get to go through them, but it's probably more so going to be like, these are the edits. You know what I mean? Whereas working with these smaller publishers, you have a lot more say, and that goes for Death Said Press too. That goes for Evil Cookie. That goes for Macabre Ladies. A lot of these smaller presses, you have a lot more say in how your final product turns out, and that's one of the great things about it.
Yeah, and speaking of Dawn, I just want to say I did speak with her a few days ago. We are going to have her on the podcast in the future. We definitely want to get some of the ladies of horror on. So Dawn is definitely going to be on. I know, Roland, that you've talked with Candace Nola, who's kind of started publishing quite a few things now, nominated for a Splatterpunk Award. She'll be on. And
by the way, we have chat books coming from Candace as well.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
I saw that.
Yeah, she announced that the other day.
So she's doing a three book as well, right?
Yes, she is. Yeah.
So that's awesome. So some crossover there. So additionally, want to get some more female authors too. I think we're gonna have Elizabeth Bedlam on a little bit down the road too. We just have some guests now that it's relevant. You guys got Visceral coming out, and I think we're gonna have Matt Shaw very soon, because our Survivors Guild's coming out. But we had Rain
Havoc on. I'm actually reading her ARC book that she did with Ash Eric-Moore right now, and I messaged her earlier, and there's a particular scene that I got to, and I messaged her, and I'm like, Rain, what the fuck did you send me? Like, this shit is brutal.
Her story in Splatterpunk, what is it, 12 or 11 that we're in?
Oh, yeah. Yep, the new one.
That one is fucked up. Yeah, this one here. Where's the camera?
There you go.
Her story in that's fun.
She's fucked up. She is so cool, though. I was so happy to get her on the show, and she is an amazing writer and just a very, very, very sweet person. And I messaged her today. Her and I might have something coming out next year, possibly. And
what's
I
his
messaged
name?
her. Oh, you'll see. Don't you worry. His name's Aaron. Aaron White Bush Beauregard.
Woo! Watch out! Here I come.
Yeah, she's. I messaged her and I'm like, this is fucking very, very graphic. She's like, I'm aware it's gonna get worse. I'm only at like page 70 out of 180, and it's already fucking brutal. But yeah, I'd love to reach out to some more. Elizabeth Bedlam will be a great one. I'd love to reach out to Kenzie and see if we can get Kenzie on.
Kenzie's great.
Christine Morgan, I'd love to see. You know, she's another one that's been around for a while, and she's put out some really awesome stuff. So,
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're going to have definitely a lot of great female authors, some good diversity on the show. We're looking forward to that. It's just sort of, we got to arrange these around releases somewhat too, and we're on a bi-weekly schedule, so sometimes it's a little tricky, but that's a taste of things to come. But what do you guys say we get into some questions? Roland, you want to kick us off on the question front?
Sure. Let's see where we are.
Always taking the glass. That's
gotta take them
Clark
glasses off.
Kent, baby.
Her and the Superman.
He kind of looks like Ken Foray with his glasses off. Okay.
Roland's is fucking beautiful regardless.
Oh.
He's a handsome fucker.
Tell me more about my eyes.
Yeah.
So let's see. Is it Kane Lambert?
That's right.
She wants to know any tips on how to grow immaculate facial hair like that. And then,
Beautiful.
on a more serious note, if you have full control over everything, which book would you like to see made into a full-length film or TV series?
First, before you answer, I just want to say I love that question, both of them. And Kane Lambert's a real good guy. He's super cool. One of those people that really supports just horror in general, you know, and he's always out there sharing. So shout out to Kane. Thanks for the question.
All right, thanks for the question, Kane. On the beard, it's not as immaculate as you might think. On the sides, it's kind of lacking. I have to shave it. I'm kind of sad, but yeah, I get it here. I don't know. I guess it's genetic. I'm not sure. Maybe it's the cigars and whiskey. Who knows? As far as the one made into a movie or a series, I think I would have to say my first novel, Inferno Bound and the Hellhound, because it's kind of fucking hot. Or, you know, my novel from Cerberus Exploitation, Vampire Nuns Behind Bars. It's got so much nudity. It would just be it would be like one of those women behind bars Giallo films where there's just the entire movie that women run around naked. So that would have to be my choice. Vampire Nuns Behind Bars.
Okay, and I'm gonna piggyback on that real quick. Like, so if somebody has never read any of your work, what would you suggest they start with?
Well, if you're not ready to read until May, then go with Visceral II. If you want to start now, maybe kind of prepare yourself for it, go with Visceral. I think you got some good bloody body horror with my stuff and Christine's, two of the best in the biz, in my opinion. So start there.
Right. Nice.
One of your stories I will definitely recommend that I fucking loved and I thought was a highlight, and they were all great. But Insides Out, what you led Cerberus Rising with, was a fucking bleak story. And I read that, and I'm like, damn, I can't believe they're kicking off this collection with that story, and it was just fucked up. Like, I really enjoyed that one.
You know what's funny about that? I mentioned that I've had people message me about stuff. It's by far been about that story. And going into that collection, I felt that was the weakest story in the whole collection. And I was actually telling Chris Miller and M. Innenbach that I didn't really want to begin the collection with that story because I didn't feel like it was the strongest. But the way we had divided up the sections, that's just kind of how it ended up. And so I've actually been shocked that I've gotten so much great reception from that story. I thought both my other stories I thought were far better, but I've gotten so much more response from that one, and it's just blown me away, and that's great.
I think people will really like Firecracker Kings when it comes out too. I think that one will. I think that one's gonna like stun some people, you know, and like flare up those emotions in our Splatterpunk fan base.
You're gonna hit all your senses and all your emotions when you read Visceral II. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
I honestly, after I finished reading. I'm sorry to interrupt you. After I finished reading the book, I shit blood for like 3 days, guys. I don't know if I told you.
That's still after effects from the convention.
What were y'all doing in the room?
You know, Roland, we sent you fucking live videos. You fucking have to go now.
Roland was there. I know he was there. I thought he was taping. I thought Roland was taping the whole thing.
Roland would never be the cameraman.
I couldn't hold the camera steady enough.
Yeah, Roland's the star.
Dan, you wanna hit him with the second question while I go piss real quick?
I will absolutely do that.
Thank you.
So Ray Howe, one of our amazing readers, he wants to know, what do you consider an essential ingredients when cooking up a story?
It kind of depends on the effect I'm aiming at. If I'm wanting a shock and awe, then I would say the essential ingredient is the shock and awe, the blood and guts. But really, probably the most important thing is characters that your readers can connect with. If you're not writing good characters that your readers, they don't necessarily have to like them, but they have to connect with them in some kind of way, then they're not going to care what happens, what they do. And so I would say building good characters, and that's probably cliche at this point because Stephen King and everybody else says the same thing, but that's because it's true. You got to build great characters, and then everything you have them do, have them experience, becomes that much more important and hits the reader that much harder.
Yeah, I'll definitely piggyback on that, and I 100% agree with that, because in A Savage Breed, so I'm getting some interference.
Yeah, it happened to as soon as Aaron put down his fucking earphones.
Yeah, I don't know what he fucked something up.
God damn it, Aaron.
God damn. Yeah, I'm gonna try to move my microphone away. In A Savage Breed, that's a big character related story, and obviously the monsters are important, but the human monsters in that, because you built the characters so well, that the monsters to me were like second fiddle to the character drama, and just going through that land, and it was so conflicting with some of the characters. It was just well done.
Yeah, well, thank you. And that, like I said, that's not at all how I planned it out to begin with. The monsters in the story are almost forgettable by the end of it, because the human monsters are so much more intense and so much more relevant to the actual story. They're just kind of dealing with the other monsters in the story. But yeah, that almost came out totally by mistake. It just kind of evolved that way. But I've got a lot of flack because of some of those characters. People cared about them so much, like Whispering Wind, the Comanche woman, in that she took it hard in that story, and people didn't like it.
Yeah.
But what they don't understand, she's really the only good person in the whole story. I mean, when things got bad, this person that was victimizing her, laying there on the ground in bad shape, and she's sitting there doctoring him,
Oh, man.
So yeah, the characters really did come through in that story, and quite by accident, I think.
All right. Well, the next question's about me, so I'm gonna go recycle this beer, and then you guys can ask him that question.
All right.
Yeah, and it's like, this is the first time our bladders have broke on the show. Although sometimes Roland disappears mysteriously. I don't know what he's doing. It's not long enough to take a piss, but he goes somewhere. What's up with that, Roland?
I'm just going on the other side of the camera so you can't see what I'm doing. But you heard the noises. You hear the noises, so figure it out.
All right. I'm an adult. I can figure it out.
Hey, Patrick, I got a quick question about character development. So considering that you say character building and character development is one of the most vital things in your story, do you develop a character arc? Like, do you write down, okay, this is the character, this is her personality, so forth and so on? Or do you just let it flow when you're writing?
I haven't done that a lot with my project that's coming up after Grandpappy, the Snake Creek Inquisition. I've written out a little bit about the characters, but usually I start writing them and just kind of see where they go. Let the personalities and their histories kind of build as I go. But I think whenever you're like with the Snake Creek Inquisition, I'm going to have quite a few characters, and so I need to have like that list I can look back on.
Yeah.
But up to this point, I think I've had relatively good success in building characters, just kind of letting it come naturally as I'm writing.
Awesome. And on a scale, let's say a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being the most difficult to work with, how hard, Donna Latham asks, how hard is Dan to work with?
Let me put it this way: don't work with Dan.
He walked away.
Yeah.
No.
Trust me, I've been there. I'm with you.
Yeah, if we're talking about the writing process for Visceral II, I didn't have to do much with him, so it was fine. If we're talking editing, he's always been very complimentary of my edits and has thanked me for the job I've done, so he's been great to work with.
Yeah, I think you are a great editor, and you make certain suggestions. And I think, okay, and this is why I would recommend your editing service to maybe aspiring writers that are listening to the podcast, because you're not overbearing with your suggestions, but the suggestions that you do choose to make, they've always made sense. And I think I've almost taken. I think you've done it several times, and you've edited a few books of mine, and almost every time I've done it.
Yeah,
I've taken your edit and said, yeah, he's totally right. And there was one critical one I thought in Modern Hysteria that was about a character's emotion in particular, and you just fucking nailed that. And
yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about. What I try and do when I'm editing, I don't want to change anybody's style. Because I've had editors that, try and turn my sentences around and make them sound like how I didn't want them to sound. That's not what I want to do as an editor. I'm going to fix your grammar. I'm going to do all the proofreading, but I'm also on the lookout for anything that might not jive right in the real world. And the first time I remember noting something that needed a little better editing in mainstream fiction, I read Dr. Sleep by Stephen King, and he's talking about a character has a Glock and he hits the thumb safety. Well, anybody that knows anything about a Glock knows it doesn't have a thumb safety. And any kind of editor worth his salt would be able to pick that. If you don't know anything about guns, Google it, and that's one. I worked in the firearms industry for a few years, so I would know that reading it. But whenever I'm reading someone's manuscript, if they mention something historical, if they mention something about weaponry or about something in some kind of field, medical field or plumbing or whatever the fuck they're talking about, if I'm not sure if that's right or not, I'll look that up, because somebody reading that book is going to be able to say, you fucking idiot, that's not how it works. And that's embarrassing. For a publisher and a writer and anybody that's edited that book, it's embarrassing not to catch something like that.
It could be a big turnoff for certain people. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and sure, I mean, maybe with that particular line that King wrote, he alienated maybe like 30% of his audience or something, and they were kind of like, he's a fucking idiot for that. But still, you would think with like professional editors at that level. But guys, that's why you got to go PC3. He's going to catch that gun shit for you.
I'm here. I have an opening.
I was going to ask you, are you doing taking editing jobs just all the time, or how does that work for you?
I'm always editing something. I don't always have, I can't take on a whole bunch of people, obviously. I never thought I would be a good editor because I'm a very slow reader. And so I didn't think I could fit people in. But I think me being a slow reader has actually helped me with that, because I sound out every word basically. And so I think I pick up a lot on stuff that's missed by other people. But if people want to reach out to me about edits, y'all are more than welcome to do so.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that real quick. Obviously, I was using the facilities, but Pat, you've edited 2 of my books and numerous short stories. And definitely, like Aaron said, you pick up on not just the grammar stuff, but those little subtle nuances. Because even in Left to You, I've never been in the military, and we talked about certain military aspects of that, where even though it's obviously the German military and the Nazis, there were certain things that were not correct from a military standpoint. And you're like, hey, this might not work out. And you were right. And I went through it, and I revised some of it, even some of the weaponry, things that were not inconsistent, but maybe more accurate with officers. I went through some of that, and I cleaned it up. And I think rereading it and going through it, I'm like, this is obviously a much better and a cleaner version that is more accurate. And like you said, the gun thing always gets to me. And in movies you see people get hit with a 9mm round and they drop immediately and they die. Like that's not accurate. Like people don't die like that.
Oh, Hollywood's the worst. Yeah.
Yeah, handgun. Spoiler alert for people: shotguns don't throw you across the room. A handgun doesn't throw you across the room. Like that's not how it works. There's physics, there's mechanics, and there's equal reaction to everything.
I love that Bruce Willis Last Man Standing, where he's shooting this guy with his 45s, and the guy tumbles 50 feet out into the road. It's holy shit!
Dude, Last Man
It's
Standing.
an awesome scene, but it's that would never happen.
Right, no. but how underrated is that movie? That's an
awesome movie. I love that movie.
What about Christopher Walken? He plays Hickey in that.
Oh my God, he's
fucking
great.
Incredible in that.
He's great. Yeah.
I mean,
he's great in anything. But.
Yeah, but if you're just looking for that badass dual handgun fucking fire off.
Yeah.
8 clips in a scene movie, and you want that tinge of Western. That's what was cool about that movie is it wasn't completely Western, but there were cars and stuff, but it was in the fucking West. It was it's an underrated movie.
Very underrated movie. It's great.
Still one of the best shootout scenes I think ever. It's semi-accurate is the shootout scene in Heat.
Wow, yeah.
Oh man, it's been forever since I've seen that movie.
If you want to fairly accurate tactics and movement and shootout, Heat is a fucking great shootout scene. And some of the scenes in the town. The town's pretty good too. Also, excellent book too. Completely fucking different ending in the book though. So if you read it, you might not like the movie anymore.
Usually is.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we could go on for hours, but based on time, I'm gonna try and hit off a few of these questions real quick.
Yeah, let's rapid fire.
Because honestly, let's do some rapid fire. All right.
We're at the time.
Donna.
Speaking of rapid fire, how do you think Carver's doing right now, getting rapid fired by bulls, all in his fucking hair?
Yo.
Disgusting. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right. No, we can talk on that if we need to.
No, I'm all right. Go ahead.
So Donna Latham asked, "What is your favorite book you've written?"
That I've written?
Yes.
Oh. Probably Savage Breed, I guess. And that would be solely because of Liz Sawyer. I think that character just makes the book. Yeah, so a Savage Breed.
Awesome. Joshua McMillan asks, as a publisher, what are you looking for that most people wouldn't immediately think of? And where do you see the genre going?
Oh, where did I see it going? Well, like I said a few minutes ago, what I look for is originality. Don't come up to me with something that's been done 1,000 times before, because we're probably, unless you have a whole bunch of sales, we're probably not going to be interested. As far as where I see it going, I thought not long ago that we were going to see a lot more of the audiobook thing, but I don't know about how y'all are doing. It doesn't seem like audiobook sales have taken off about like I thought they would. I could kind of see a reemergence of, we kind of had the reemergence of splatterpunk and extreme horror in the last year or so. I could see maybe a melding of splatterpunk and cosmic horror or something like that.
I will say, just to comment on the real quick, I know we're going quick here to get through some of these, but on the audiobook topic, I will say if you have a book that is crushing on Amazon, let's say, or it went viral for a period of time like the Slob did, you'll make very good money with Audible. But, I think that in part it's because I really hand-selected the narrator for that too, and I paid out, to get a good narrator for that one. Whereas with some of my others, it's more experimental because you don't know how many are going to take it. So you may want to, find a narrator that, isn't going to be as pricey, but that's still going to deliver the story properly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it could be good, but have you guys seen kind of not as great as you thought?
Well, Dead Inside has sold very good Audible, and for good reason, because it was done very well. But I've kind of been disappointed in some of the other books we've done, and some of my own books. I mean, they sell, but nothing like the paperback and ebook sales.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, it is a weird thing, It's because it's kind of a relatively. We've had books on cassette and CDs, but they've never quite been that popularity of actually reading and sort of using your imagination. That's part of what makes reading awesome too. You know.
Yeah.
Aaron, real quick, that's a shout out to Joshua McMillan, his book, The Best of Intentions. That's a D&T book as well. Josh is a really awesome author. So Best of Intentions, if you want something that's just going to fucking mind fuck you, definitely check that book out.
Excellent. Yeah, Josh, a great guy. He interacts with the show a lot. Let's go on to Todd Love, who also is an indie author, and he
Todd
interacts with
Todd
the show.
Father. Todd Father right there.
He
my
releases
dude.
quite a bit of stuff on Godless. I think his new one's him and Donna Latham, right?
Yeah. Mother's Love.
Mother's Love.
Mother's
Yes.
Love. So check that out on Godless. And Todd asks, when writing, what atmosphere do you create for yourself? What brand of cigar do you smoke, and what kind of drink?
Generally, when I'm writing, I don't drink or smoke. And I've kind of learned to write in pretty much any environment. I'm a family man, and I'll a lot of the times just sit at the kitchen table, whatever the background noise it is, I can deal with it. If it were an ideal situation, I'd be sitting where I'm sitting now, my war room, which is the garage that I've turned into my little man cave. I call it the war room. I would have a cigar here that I would occasionally puff on, and I would have, a lot of times I do this if I'm the only one awake or something like that, or if I'm the only one at home, I will put it on Nemo's Dreamscapes on YouTube. It's like jazz and big band stuff that it's like tuned low, like it's in another room. And it's perfect background music for writing. So Nemo's Dreamscapes, check it out. That's how I do it.
Something about smoking, though, right? Like, and I quit relatively recently. Like, I think I haven't smoked in, like, I don't know, over a month, except for Scares the Care. I bought one pack that weekend. But something about creative process and smoking that really goes together. I don't know what it is.
Well, it certainly makes you feel better for whatever reason. I think there's kind of that nostalgic aspect. You see Hemingway sitting there smoking a cigar and drinking a whiskey or whatever, and there's people have this idea of a writer that he drinks and smokes, and I certainly don't do either. But no,
see the YouTube video to get the joke, people.
Yeah, but yeah, I've found that I do not work as well if I'm doing that while I'm writing. But that's just me. And if he's wanting to know what cigars I like to smoke, and they're really expensive right now. But Drew Estate Liga Privada No. 9 is my favorite.
And I would fucking I know what you mean about not being quite as productive, because I would like sort of be like taking cigarette breaks, but I also found them to be helpful sometimes when thinking through story, like, oh, I'll go have a cigarette, but then it's like you're kind of like, oh, thinking about that a little too much as well, and it could be a distraction,
It's bizarre how many great ideas I get in the shower.
Yeah, or driving.
Driving's huge.
Yeah, it's like every time I get in the shower, I just kind of space out and like, bam, there's that idea I was looking for.
Yeah,
it's weird how that happens.
Yeah, I don't smoke, but there are nights, like, usually I'm a morning writer for the most part. Like, I get up early and I write. But if there is a night where I'm like, or I'm on vacation and I'm going to just stay up all night, I will drink when I write. And generally, it's like fucking Boilermakers. Like, I'll do, some fucking bourbon and some fucking beers, and I'll sit there and I'll go like full Stephen King writing Cujo style, and I'll just fucking write. And I'll wake up the next day and I'm like, I don't know what I did, but I hope it's good.
Hey, Patrick, you said you get a lot of good ideas in the shower. I imagine you can't write those down. But, like, when you do get ideas, how do you jot them down on a notepad? Do you take, notes on your phone?
I have an iPad in the shower with me.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's how I have it. No, I'll have a little sticky pad that I write it down on, and then I have a file in my computer called Ideas, where I've got probably 20 pages of just lines or titles or just little random ideas. So that's what I do.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I would say for the aspiring writer or current writers, a tool, if you have Windows operating system, OneNote is really good to be using as a hub for your ideas, because you could create like tabs within it, and then within those tabs, there's all different things you can click on. So like I have a tab for novels, and then within novels, there's all these different novel ideas, and then short stories and novellas and so on, or whatever you want to put in there. And if you haven't fucked around with that, that's probably a good one. But
yeah, not a bad idea. I don't know about y'all, but I've got probably more ideas than I'll ever be able to write. But
yeah, I forget.
Oh yeah.
I heard this story of like a director that became incredibly depressed in like his 60s and shit because he realized like that there was no, like he had more stories than he would be able to tell as he lived, and he was just kind of like became depressed. And I'm not at that point yet. Like I still think I'm young enough to do the ones I got, but it's the ones I'm gonna get along the way. Some of that shit's gonna get snipped, unfortunately.
Yeah, my wife asked me that the other day. We were driving, and she's like, "Do you think you'll ever write everything that for the ideas you have?" Or she's like, "Do you think you'll run out of ideas?" And I'm like, the amount of stuff I have written down right now will probably fuel 5 years of writing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's fucked up. But okay, let's jump over to RJ Rolls. Shout out Books of Horror admin. He's also an author.
Hey, RG.
And
Awesome author.
he asked, normally, do you start with 1 or 2 or dive right in with all 5?
Oh, you got to dive right in.
I mean, I knew you were going to say that, but I just had to humor him. You know what I mean? Like,
Thank you, RJ. You're always providing insightful additions to our conversation.
It's
fucking class
hey,
act.
I'll let RJ know whenever we meet up at a con.
Oh yeah, you gotta start the duck face.
Yeah, first hand experience, if you will.
Yeah.
All right, and so that wraps up the questions that were directly for Pat. Awesome job answering the questions and also telling us about your career. This has been so awesome. But I think we can squeeze these in because they've kind of been sitting in the inbox for a little while. Connor McQueen reached out to me the other day and actually bought a Modern Hysteria bundle, so I want to give a shout out and say thank you to him. Sent a very nice message, sort of the type of messages we were talking about before, where he goes, for what it's worth, your show and what you guys are doing really helping me out. So,
awesome.
Very cool.
Shout out to him. Question 1, he's asking, do you suggest publishing your very first novel, or should that one stay in the trunk? So I know, let's just go around the room here. Dan, I know you self-published your first one, right?
Well, the first one I self-published, but I've had many, many trunk novels, and a lot of them are just shitty, like fantasy or steampunk. Surprisingly, my first real novella was Billy Silver, and I did self-publish that because nobody else would publish it because it's fucking pretty brutal. But
No,
yeah.
So, but Billy Silver was the first one you wrote, though, right? And finished, or did you have some of these cuck novels stashed away before that?
Oh yeah, I have like 80K steampunk novels that are just sitting in in Microsoft Word that are just horrendous. There's like this cogs and rivets and fucking magic, and I have a lot of fantasy. I have like legitimate like a fantasy series that is like, I have like the first book done that's like, I don't know, 60,000 words that will never see the light of day because it's fucking complete ass. But they let me learn, and it was a very good practice. So if you feel that it's good, or you let other people that you trust read it, you need to find people that will read it and tell you, hey, this is shit. And I've reached out to people before, and I'm like, if you read this and it's not good, please tell me, because I won't be upset. You have to have thick skin when it comes to writing, and you have to be able to trust people to tell you that your stuff is not ready. And you don't want to put something out that's not ready. And I've done it, where I put out short story collections, and I've pulled them down because I'm like, these are not ready for human consumption, we'll say. So for me personally, if you think that it's good and you have respected peers that tell you it's good, then yes, go ahead and publish it, because you might be J.K. Rowling and you might fucking write your first book, as Harry Potter and become a billionaire. Or you might write a trunk novel, something that was a great practice, you learned, and it's going to remain hidden away for all eternity.
I heard she was doing the next one is Harry Potter and the Fentanyl Fiend. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. I think Harry gets thrown out of Hogwarts, and he's turning tricks at Diagon Alley, and he's blowing people for those chocolate frogs. So, yeah. It's gonna be amazing.
That sounds awesome.
All right,
it's gonna be good.
It's going to be tough to transition from this conversation, but let's bring it to Pat now. What do you say? What was your experience? What do you think?
Don't give your book to your buddy to read and tell you if it's ready for publication. Certainly, if your book is good enough, go ahead and publish it, whether you go to a publisher or publish it yourself. But you are not a good enough critic for your own work. Nobody is. So you need to give it to somebody. And don't give it to your buddy. Don't give it to fucking Chris Miller, because he'll tell you it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
Shouts out Chris Miller and Carver Pike.
I'm lucky enough. My wife is a very good critic. She'll read my stuff, and generally she likes it, but she also tells me where it's kind of gone off the rails and isn't great. And so it's good to have that person that you can trust their opinion and tell you whether it's good or not. And you need to have a good editor. If you're going to publish it yourself, you need to have a good editor. My first book I published, and I had a friend of mine now, I didn't know him at the time, his name is Cody Higgins. He said, "Hey man, I'm reading your book and I really like it. This is Inferno Bound and the Hellhounds." He said, I really like it, but would you like me to send you some edits, some errors I found? I was, "Oh yeah, for sure, do that." And I was horrified when he sent me like 20 plus errors, and it's because I had just gone the cheapest route when looking for an editor. So, if you want to publish your book, look for honest opinions and look for somebody that can edit your work well.
Awesome. Roland, what do you got, brother?
Well, with my first one on abortion, I thought it was a good idea. I thought it was a unique and interesting idea that's never been done before. So I was definitely going to publish it. As far as the editing, I paid a decent amount for editing, and it still didn't get edited right. But then... Yeah, I was like pissed off, man. I actually had it edited twice. But it goes back to not back to, but finding an editor, I found mine on Fiverr. But now that I'm part of the community, I know people who know how to edit and know what they're doing now. So seek out somebody that, like you said, you trust, somebody that knows the genre and knows what they're doing. So yeah, go for it.
Great point. And Roland, I'm in the same boat. I thought. I was probably the stupidest of everybody because it was like me and then like.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked by that, Aaron.
You think so, man? Is it my face? Is that?
You're very smart and you're very handsome.
Well, thank you. Well, see me after the show then.
I will.
No, but I thought that I could edit my own shit. Like I had no idea what I was doing, and like. For anyone who kind of gets that idea in their head, it's important to talk about these embarrassing moments, though, and that's what we do on the show. We humiliate ourselves. It's like, you think you can edit your own shit, you just can't. You'll never do it.
It's because the words are already there in your head.
They're already there.
I skip over the words.
You'll fill them in.
It's like they're already there.
So
I might have skipped a "the" or a "he" or whatever in that sentence. But my mind tells me it's there. I just skip right over it.
And I will say that the read aloud feature in Word can be helpful to have that robotic voice read it aloud for you. But even still, there is going to be shit that you miss because you're going to sit there and be listening to 30 to 60,000 words, and your brain's going to go numb a couple times, and you're going to miss stuff. So you absolutely have to have that second set of eyes. And still, there's things that are going to slip through, and even if you get it edited by, like I've had books that have been edited by like 2 people, and then I've gone over it multiple times with the read aloud.
There's going to be
it'll slip through.
It's like The Fisherman by John Langan. It won a Bram Stoker Award. I found 2 errors in it when I read it, and it just happens. That's going to happen. But that doesn't necessarily mean that anything's wrong with the book. It's just that's why you need editors.
But like you said, right? Pat, there's a difference between 2 and 22. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, you see a couple, that's sort of acceptable, especially in the indie community when people are like busting their ass and we're fucking scrapping to put this shit out, you know, like we're the fucking machine behind it all. So there's a certain level of understanding that a lot of people will have if they see 1 or 2 errors. But if it's every fucking 3 pages, you know, you're people are going to trash your book. So, but going back to the first novel, so I put out my first novel, my collection rather. The first one I wrote was actually a novella, Daitami, but I released it after the collection. And I recently put it onto Audible, and that was an interesting experience to have it all read back to you and go through the document, which I had revised. I did a second edition of it too. And yeah, that first novel, it's going to feel a little weird, especially when you're looking at your later work, when you're like, man, I've learned so much since I did this, and I was just a deer in headlights kind of doing it. But at the same time, I look at all the people there's some people that's their favorite book from me. You know what I mean? So beauty is truly in the eye of the beholder. And even though you might think some shit sucks, like even with getting, you know, friends to read it and things like that, you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Do what feels right. You're gonna have to go with your gut on some of this shit, I think. But use the tips that we all gave you, and hopefully it will work out as best it can.
Don't find editors on Fiverr. No, I'm just playing.
Yeah.
No, there's some bad ones, but if you're watching this show, you probably I found one real good one on Fiverr, but you know, since then I found Pat. Since then I've worked with Candace and Mort, and we have a lot of like good people that, you know, need work. Maybe they don't need work, but you know, they're good workers and maybe can use the work. So go with those suggestions first. But let's just follow up with Connor's second question. Let's just ask just Pat this one because we've answered this before. What genre of music do you mostly listen to? And can you give us 3 of your favorite bands currently?
He's not talking about when I'm writing, I guess. He's talking about in general.
I think he's just saying in general, yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I kind of like folk rock and country and heavy metal. I'm kind of all over the place with it. I like John Anderson, Seminole Wind. I like Dire Straits. I like, I'll probably catch hell for this. I like Avenged Sevenfold. People say they're not metal. I think they're awesome.
Yeah, Unholy Confessions. It's a good song.
All right, and then just to wrap this up, we're going to wrap it up with Kip Poe Spiker. He's sent this question in some time ago. I'm just going to read the email real quick because it's been a little while since we've been able to get to it. First off, I love the show and finally catching up on all the episodes. My question, I'm not sure if you might know. 10 years ago, I got banned from the Big A, Amazon, and fell into a dark and depressing duration. It feels like my one outlet to tell stories was eliminated. I always wondered if I could land an indie publisher, if my work could then make it onto the platform again, or would I be wasting my time and theirs? I'm so glad I found another platform in Godless, and I'm just happy to provide my exclusives there. I'm just curious if you've ever heard, if you've heard or knew anything about work tied to your account, but the publisher, if they could get you on Amazon after being banned. So, I think that Simon McCarty went through something like this with Mother Maggot, where that was banned on Amazon, but I believe Potter's Press was able to release that paperback on Amazon after the fact. But I think it's cool that we have PC3 here, but I'm not sure if you've encountered this or not.
Not this exact situation, but I would think it kind of depends on why he got banned, I would assume. But because it's 2 different accounts. You have the press account and then you have the personal account. I don't think they can ban your book from the publisher based on something a person did, would be my guess. Now, we as Death's Head Press, we've had books banned. We had one of our first anthologies, Rope Burns, was banned off Amazon. it's because of a cover we had. And even when we changed the cover and tried to re-upload it, they had that title, I guess, checked off. So even when we tried to upload it then, they banned it. And they kept us for an entire year. We could not do pre-orders because we tried to re-upload it after it was banned. But, so don't fuck with Amazon in that kind of way. That might, I don't want to give anybody wrong information, but I would assume that going by route of a publisher, that it could still be uploaded. And, even if not, there's always the option of a pseudonym. That might be one of the things you could do. But that's one of the good things about Godless, though, and these other options. Opening up your own store and stuff like that. There's other stuff you can do. Hell, I have an Etsy store. I mainly just sell random books on there, but you can sell stuff all over the place now.
Yeah, diversifying your portfolio is something we talk about a lot, and that's why it's good, like you said, to have an alternative like Godless to sell directly yourself. Have your hand in a lot of different things, but it sounds like that there, at the very least, Kip, there is potential for it. Don't give up if that's something that you're aspiring to do. It sounds like it might not be a waste of time because we're like you said, Pat. We don't know, but just thinking logically about it, it sounds like it's a possibility.
Yeah, I would certainly think so. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that's all the questions that we got. I'm glad we got to get through those. Again, let's bring it back home to Visceral II, Filleted Flesh, which is May 10th, if I have that right. Is that correct?
May 10th, yes, sir.
May 10th.
Pre-orders up now for the ebook, so check that out on Amazon. If you got a Kindle, get that shit ready.
Yeah, we'll definitely put the pre-order link in the YouTube episode. So if you're listening to this, go ahead and check the links for that pre-order link. And then, I think just for me, having read it already and had the chance to do that, I know that the listeners of this show and the viewers of this show are absolutely going to love it. It's just going to be a wild ride. You're going to get a little bit of everything: humor, violence, chaos, depression, anger. Sure, you'll shit blood for 2 days, guaranteed, guys, guaranteed.
Easily 2 days.
You might go 3. You might.
Yeah. You might get like a little tinge on even a day 4.
You might need to read it in a hospital waiting room. Right? Best bet.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's actually a pretty good tagline.
All right. And since we've gone an elongated amount with this session, we don't want to miss out on the things we normally do, though. So, Pat, if I could just ask you to acknowledge someone that you think people should read more of, because we like to spotlight authors on this show, and then B, a reader, if you could just give a reader recognition to one of your top readers.
Yeah, someone that people should read. If you haven't read this person, if you haven't read this one particular book, you really need to, especially if you love splatterpunk and extreme horror, and that would be Matthew Stokoe, who wrote Cows. That is probably my favorite splatterpunk book ever. I stayed up late one night reading that, just bursting out laughing, and it's one of those books like we were talking about earlier where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I just read that. There are so many insane scenes in that one. So Matthew Stokoe, and I've only read that one book. I need to get into his other stuff, but that book is enough for me to be like, okay, he's one of my favorite authors in the genre. So. And for a reader, me personally, my wife, Petal, Rachel Harrison's her real name, but she goes by Petal. She is just the perfect reader because she's both critical and she praises you when you deserve it. She reads everything I write before it comes out, and she's done that for some writers as well. She does that for Chris. She's done that for Mike Innenbach. She's just one of those perfect readers. She's not on social media a lot, but she's bought a lot of the people y'all know, and a lot of y'all, she's bought y'all's books.
Yeah, I will say about her that she recently jumped on social media, sent me a friend request, and thanked me for taking her copy of Baker's Dozen around at Scares That Care. And, I was very thankful that she even acknowledged me for that. And I was happy to do it because she seems like a dedicated. Yeah, throw the fucking heart reaction
Throw
up
the
there.
heart up, baby.
I'm gonna throw a clapping hands up too because this is fucking amazing.
Yo, we getting fucking lit tonight.
Yeah, she reached out and she's a reader and she really enjoyed that book, and I was happy to go around, and Jeff Strand kind of like looked at me weird, and which is normal because this is how it is, and I just kind of like walked up with my head down. I'm like, "Excuse me, sir, can I please have your autograph for this book? Can you make it out the pedal?" And he's like, "Get the fuck away from my table." But,
He's like, "Are
no,
you gonna
but it
buy
was,
something, Volpe? What the fuck?"
I was like, all right, sir, I have these couple of these quarters I've rubbed together. Can I have a book, please? But yeah, but she seems really cool, and just the small interactions I had, she seems like definitely a true fan of the Splatterpunk.
One of those people behind the scenes that you don't know about that really supports all the writers out there more than you know.
Nice.
Yeah, and she sent me a friend request too, and she seems really awesome. So that's a great...
Hold on, I told her not to friend request you though.
Oh, it was me.
I hope she didn't request Carver because fuck him for not being here for this.
Yeah, unfriend and block immediately.
and Chris Miller, because him and Carver are out harvesting bull semen right now.
Oh my God, they're both cheeseheads.
Disgusting. Disgusting.
A pair of Chris's. Oh yeah. All right, so we're gonna sign off, but let's let you sign off first. Where's the best way to get your work? Are you selling signed copies? What are you pushing these days?
Yeah, I sell signed copies. You can find me I'm not on Twitter, but you can find me on Facebook, Patrick C. Harrison III. You can find me on my website, pc3horror.com. You can email me, pc3@pc3horror.com. There's obviously deathsheadpress.com. You can find me on my Amazon page. So yeah, you can find me in any of those spots, and I'll be happy to answer emails and messages anywhere.
You have an OnlyFans or no?
Yeah, it's under a diffdifferent name.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll talk later.
Yeah, send me the link after. But Roland, speaking of OnlyFans,
Moneymaker.
No OnlyFans. I'm just pushing fentanyl. $10.
oh shit, this got fucking gangster real quick.
Slinging.
I have dime bags. So you can find me on Amazon, or you can send me a message on my website, www.rolandbercyjr.com. Yeah, send me a message on Facebook. I'm always willing to chat with people and say hi and make a new friend. Daniel.
I'm everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, fuck stupid ass TikTok. Like we said in the beginning of the show, I'm gonna have a website that's gonna be launching for merch, for signed books, for any kind of stuff. It'll be DanielJVolpeHorror.com. You can check that out. By the time this comes out, that should be released. So if you like any of the cool designs I put up, check that out. And if you want to sign copies of anything, just send me a private message, and I will direct you where to go.
Or if you send him a message of your privates, that will also results in a free book.
A message of my privates will get you a free Aaron Beauregard book. And it's actually a coloring book of his gray pubic hair.
Aaron Beauregard's coloring book. All right, enough of the fucking dick jokes, guys. Let's get serious.
It's a fucking serious show.
Yeah, so I'm Aaron Beauregard. You can find me on Amazon, and then I'm launching my store May 1st alongside Dan Volpe. And we're going to be, and mine is abhorror.com. And that's going to be a hub for signed books, merchandise, pretty much everything you can imagine. It's all going to be there, and it's going to be a real personalized touch to it. So, also Modern Hysteria is my most recent release. So far, I'm very happy with the reviews and the feedback, and it's been selling really good. So I'm hoping to continue to get that out to people. And Nightmare Nirvana, I will say with that book, it's been very popular among those that have found it, but because of some of the imagery in it, you have to go directly to my profile to purchase it. Those are my releases this year, and plenty of fun stuff on the horizon. But guys, it's really been a pleasure.
Hey, real quick, let's give a quick shout out to Carver Pike.
Carver, yeah.
Carver Pike.
No.
Right, fuck Carver Pike. Fuck him and fuck his new book, Faces of Beth, which is out now, paperback, ebook, and an amazing introduction by the fucking Brian Keene.
Brian Keene.
So if you haven't checked that out, or his parasitic head lice or pubic lice book, scalp. Check that out as well. Carver Pike on all social media. He's out now doing the Lord's work, harvesting bull semen with Chris Miller in the fields of Texas and West Virginia. So be well, gentlemen, and don't harvest from the back because you'll get kicked in the head.
Absolutely. And if that is not horrific enough for you, we'll have more in our follow-up episode. And we may have some fucking seismic announcements coming up in relation to the show. We cannot tell you yet, but I mean, it will just make your asshole and taint jiggle. That's how seismic this shit is. And until next time, keep it 100% horror.